And we decided to play hooky, as you know you kind of do. So I got up in the morning, nice and simple, and I managed to hack into the school database, change my grades and stuff like that, and change my attendance level so no one looked at it too closely. And then I spent the whole day hanging out with my best friend and and my girlfriend. It was kind of just a weird old day. My friend Cameron, his dad had a Ferrari. We kind of took that out for a bit of a joy around the city. We kind of did all sorts of stuff. It was really, really good fun. We ended up in the swimming pool, had to run around a little bit, and we ended up going through this massive parade right down the middle of the centre of the street at the end, and it was really good fun. I even did a bit of a solo number up on one of the floats as well. Really, really good. Yeah.
Wow. That's quite a story. You have the most interesting past, Jay. I wish.
I know, man. I know.
I wish other people spent more time learning about you. Because it's quite something. It really is.
Yeah, this is why you need me on behind the keyboard, man.
This is why you are the best interview, and maybe we'll never know, or maybe we will.
Yeah.
Maybe we will.
It's easy being Matthew Broderick.
Shout out to Jack Static and Beeptastic, who both subbed before we went live, I think, actually. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate that. And to
Talisman. Yeah, Talisman did 333 bits about 20 minutes before we went live as well. I saw them.
Oh,
Talisman bits. Yeah, I saw those.
Talisman testing the bot like an hour before the show.
Yeah. I think Talisman wanted to see if the tasty came on when no one was on stream if we went live.
Okay. I'm gonna assume it did not, but
no, it didn't.
I hope you got some kind of benefit from it though, at least. But yes, shout out to Geo as well for that tier 3 sub, and to J Chef for the 500 Wednesday Rebel bits.
Nice,
very nice.
Yeah, Geo tier 3 is about 32 months. That's crazy. Minsley saying, "What did I just drink? It looks yum." I just literally made myself a latte. I need coffee at this time. It's like 2 a.m. for me, so I need coffee to keep myself awake. Otherwise, the show just wouldn't happen. I'd be laid here in a puddle on the floor asleep. So, just a latte.
That's usually what I strive to be, is just a puddle on the floor. So I totally.
To be fair, it's a quadruple shot espresso latte, but
you go hard. You go hard with the coffee, man. I can't hang.
Ooh, very nice.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
We got the hype train going hard on this one as well, because not only did Lunar Sama just sub a tier 1, but Iwane just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. So thank you so much for that, guys. Very much appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Luna on a 25-month streak as well. Wow.
It's been around for a while. It's been around.
Yeah, that's nearly 3 top pack babies. It's not far off.
Ooh,
that's true.
Very nice.
That's true. I don't know if I want to have that many babies with that many people.
I think we've got a lot of top pack babies now.
That sounds like a really severe amount of child support that I don't know about you, Jay, but I just can't pay.
Hey, Top Clack's your baby. I'm just an employee, man. It's that's on your shoulders, not mine.
Shit. Oh golly! All right, fair enough. Should we do
tasty?
Oh, should we do a quick mail call while we're doing this little pre-show here?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to start up and?
I will, but first I want to give a quick shout out to TL Technic there with the 300 bits, as well as George with the tier 1 sub for 11 months. Says nice. So thank you very much, guys.
Yeah,
all right,
you guys.
So I got a couple things. I got 2 things in that I'm aware of. So one is I'm not gonna be able to show it off very well, and I know some people have seen pictures, but I got this new Cannon Keys PBT set in. This is a prototype, a sample. This is not actually like a colorway that Cannon Keys is going to be using. Obviously, this is just some kind of silly colorway knockoff crap. But the idea is to be able to test the actual quality of the caps as well as the quality of the dye sub, not necessarily the colorway itself, because that doesn't actually matter at all. So I've been using this the last couple days, and I gotta say it's been pretty nice so far. I do have some minor gripes with it, but we'll get to those another time. I plan on talking about this a little bit more at a later date, and
nice.
Hopefully we can get a more proper review sample in to check out once they actually have colorways finalized and stuff like that. So
nice. Yeah.
I got that in, and I can't show you the other thing because it's actually in use. However, I will show you the box because it's pretty small, and I have it right next to me. I got just a little portable monitor just kind of to help with Top Clack stuff. So this is actually courtesy of Not G10, who was kind enough to buy me one of these, and I've been using it for the last couple hours, and it's been pretty nice. So
he's a good guy.
He is a very nice guy. Yeah. So basically, the way I run the show, I have to have a lot of screen real estate, and I don't always have exactly enough I need to make everything like simplistic the way I want. So, I've kind of been juggling a lot of things on screen. It's been a little bit more difficult for me lately, as some of you might have noticed. So, getting an additional screen is actually really beneficial to me, and I don't have a lot of space to work with, so I can't really just have like a third monitor per se. But this one is one of it's small, it's portable, it's only like 13-ish inches and 1440p IPS, and it's pretty nice. And now I can just use that as a dedicated screen to crop from whenever I need it for the stream. And I get all of my screen real estate back that I needed.
Does that mean that my beautiful face is on your little monitor right now? Is that?
It is. It actually is. And this is why, if people on stream, I think, are noticing, you look so much better. You look so much better now.
You look better today. Yeah.
You look better today. Yeah. So I think that was definitely a benefit there.
Yeah, it was definitely you causing the issues with my my camera quality as well. So I'm glad it's fixed. I am really glad it's fixed.
Yeah,
or at least it's better than it was.
Yeah, well, I think WebEx was kind of doing us dirty for a lot of that too, but that's a conversation for another time.
I'm just going to blame you.
Well, yeah, you probably should just blame me. But we gotta. It's whatever. It's usually my fault. It is what it is. What did you get in the mail this week, though, Jay?
I got a few things. So the first thing I got in was GMK TA90. So I've got most of the Triumph Adler sets. This was the only one I didn't have, but I got that through. It's the full set with Norda and everything else. It's pretty much every possible key you could get. I also got in a Volcano 660, if I don't drop it. So that's that. This will be on a build stream near you soon. And it's this lovely blue colour. Look at that. Excuse the fingerprints on the way. I have been manhandling this a little bit. But there you go. You can.
Wow.
See that? That's really nice. It's very similar to the aquamarine, ultramarine that Mekanisk does, but it's a little bit bluer, so it's slightly more on the blue sky. I also got in GMK Yuri. This doesn't have the banderole, but it's the full key set, and this comes with pretty much every key as well. So I've got the all of the different glorious kit keys and spacebar kits. I've got the modifier kit. I've got the Cyrillic kit. I've got the whatever those are as well. Some of the bits and pieces. I think I've got pretty much every possible kit for that as well now, including the Nordic kit. So that was cool. And then I got a couple of vintage things in as well. As most of you know, I like my vintage stuff, so I did get a couple of really cool vintage boards in. The first one is I got a Waytech board in, which this thing is cool as hell. And it actually has all of the buttons and boxes and everything to go with it. So this fully works. It's a fully working version. It's not something that needs to be retrofitted. So I'm going to be setting this up at some point soon and having a bit of play with that. And then the final board I got, which was something I post today in the Top Clack Discord, but I finally got one of my Holy Grail vintage boards. This is a board from the original Commodore. This is a 1986 board, I think, which has got some great keycaps on. These are cherry double shots, the same as GMK's today, and it does have MX Blacks in there as well, which are pretty nice. So this board's absolutely stunning. It's got some really unique features on it, such as the caps lock being down here, which is really, really weird. But hey, it's cool as hell. So I'm really, really happy to have that in my collection.
Yeah, that is crazy. You have some epic vintage stuff.
I like me some vintage stuff, man.
Yeah. The longer I'm in the community, I feel like the more I appreciate the vintage stuff, and the more that I actually care about it. Like when I'm at meetups now, I don't actually gravitate to like the customs and stuff like that or the artisans. It's the vintage stuff is always the most interesting to me now.
I mean, I think we're still in a discovery phase of the vintage stuff, like finding stuff that existed that no one knew about as well. That's still happening today, so
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. All right, so with that in mind, it's about 6 now. You're not done eating yet? I'm gonna wait till you're done eating, and then we're gonna.
It's all right. We can go.
No. We gotta let you eat, Jay. We know it's early for you. You just got up. You're having your coffee. We'll give you
this is my breakfast. Yeah.
we'll give you a minute or two here.
Okay.
We did go pretty darn far on that hype train though. I think we got to level 3 or 4. So thank you very much for that, guys. All the subs and the bits donated for that. Nathan's saying what I do to own an IBM 5251 or White Whale.
Mm-hmm.
5251. That's a beam spring, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the old big old beam spring.
Yeah. Nice. Oof. Beam spring is expensive, man.
Really expensive. And like the weird thing is, if you go back 4 years, they weren't particularly expensive, but because the hobby's grown and people want them more, the price have just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I mean, if like when I first joined the hobby, probably back in 2013-ish, something like that, you could pick one up for £100 in the UK, and now you're lucky if you find one for 10 times that. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty gross, actually. A few people earlier were commenting on the growth of your hair. I think your beard as well, but I think both of us have just been kind of in isolation here. Like I don't have a barber, and like I'm not very good. I'm not very good at cutting my own hair or even my own beard. Like I'm pretty terrible at it, truth be told. So I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Honestly, I need a barber.
It's probably not easy to tell because of the way that my hair is styled, but it's actually really long.
Yeah,
like, it's literally down to the bottom of my chin now. So you know, it's up there. It's getting there, and the beard as well. It's it's really long. It's a little bit on the too long side now. But yeah, it's comfortable.
Yeah, this is like Top Clack like hobo edition. I feel like these days.
Yeah,
like
just... the other day I went to see someone for like I went to see like a property, so it was all socially isolated and all that. Folks, don't worry, it was miles away from each other. But I looked probably like a lumberjack because I just grabbed the first like thing that came to hand, and it was like a checked shirt, and then I got the beard on, and then I put like a cap on as well and stuff like that, and some jeans and my work boots, and I just looked like an actual lumberjack, and it's like it was really weird. Yeah.
Oh man. That's fantastic. Alright. With that said, let's go ahead and roll this intro and let's get into some keyboard stuff. I don't know what that is, Jay. Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? I'm gonna hope that's a good thing. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Chip-chin's a good thing. Yeah,
oh, is it? Okay, cool.
Chip-chin along, it's a good thing.
Fair enough. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Top Clack. I am your host, Quakums, joined as usual by my lovely co-host, Jay. We're going to talk to you about some fantastic keyboard stuff today. The news doc is healthy today, for lack of a better term. So we're going to try to make this a reasonably timed show, guys. I think under normal circumstances, this would probably be like a 4-hour episode. But we're going to try not to make it a 4-hour episode. So we might be trying some kind of lightning round-esque style things, particularly with some key sets and things like that. So keep that in mind. We're going to try to keep things a little bit neat and tidy and concise for you guys today. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, how are you doing today, Jay?
I'm good. I'm ready for a show. As Pokemon says, Pokemon Kid says, I'm turning into a hipster. I didn't start talking about artisanal ales and things like that, but I did talk about the keyboard hobby, and I may have talked about artisanal ciders, but not ales. So I'm pretty sure that exempts me from that particular rule there. But we'll see.
You're a hipster now. I'm calling it.
Well, fair enough. Ten Strong saying as well, the fact that we've got a long news doc is attributed to the fact that we renamed one of the Discord channels to the IC Group Buys, interest checks and group buys.
No way. There's no way that's the reason.
Yeah, we didn't take all of it from there. We did take some things from there. And we didn't take other things from there. Quite literally, we didn't take other things on purpose,
Yeah. Managing the news doc is weird these days because there's so many things happening. It's getting to the point where we certainly can't cover everything anymore. Like that's not even like a potential thought. There's just too many things happening too quickly and in too many remote areas of the community, and it's hard to keep up with some of the more Discord exclusive things or platform exclusive things or very finitely timed things. it's tough. It's tough, but we're working on it, and we're trying to figure out new ways that we can successfully do this without having to, gloss over so many interest checks and such. So just bear with us in the meantime, guys.
We will get there, and we will do our best. We assure you, it is something that's really keen on our minds to try and address in the best possible way. So just bear with us, guys.
Yes, absolutely. So, quick announcement before we do get into the news doc, though. There's not going to be an episode of Behind the Keyboard this week because I'm actually going to be doing a build stream tomorrow of the Austin V2 prototype, courtesy of Drifting Bunnies. So he sent that over to me. It's actually going to be arriving today. I just checked tracking before the show. It hasn't shown up yet, but that's going to be arriving to me today. I'm going to be doing the build stream tomorrow, and that's going to be pretty awesome. So if you like build streams with me, look forward to that tomorrow. If you hate the fact that Behind the Keyboard isn't happening tomorrow, I don't know, yell at me or something. Hopefully it'll be back next week. I do have some more guests planned, so look forward to that if you're interested in that. And let's roll into the news doc, shall we?
Sounds like a plan.
News doc. Here we go. Wayne's World. All right. So this. I know. I was trying to. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I love that movie, man. It's so good.
Man, I've not seen that in so long. Now you've got me wanting to watch all of those movies: Wayne's World, Spinal Tap. All of that kind of stuff.
We need to figure out the watch parties. Come on, man.
I know. I never got around. So busy. Yeah, we will get onto that. Yeah. Anyways,
back to the keyboards, guys. This first up on the dock today is an interest check for a very interestingly titled keyboard. I don't know what this is actually supposed to be, but it's Nice Things, Cruel World, all rights reserved, CW88 plus CW60. So I'm assuming the CW stands for Cruel World. I have no idea what the Nice Things is supposed to mean. So the title is a little lost on me, but the keyboard seems pretty straightforward. So a couple specs here. It's going to be a polycarbonate housing in either gray dyed polycarbonate or white untreated, which is kind of interesting. It's going to have a 5.5 degree angle on both keyboards. Both of them will feature a polished steel weight. Both of them will have transparent silicone silencing mats. And the plate is going to be steel or polycarbonate in half or full plate. Gasket mounting does seem like it's going to be pretty much the same across the units as well. The TKL version has a fixed LEMO connector and an F13, which is, of course, gaining a lot of traction these days. But otherwise, it seems pretty much the same otherwise, and they seem rather straightforward. What do you think?
Yeah, it's unusual to see an interest check for two keyboards at the same time. Here we've got the 88, which is the TKL, and the 60, which is the 60. I guess that's fine. I think it definitely need to see some prototypes of these, and a little bit more detailed on how things are broken down, how they work, and things like that. I know that they say it's going to have the different plates and everything else, but it'll be key. One of the big things for me is being able to see the internals of a board and see how it's going to work, because then you can start to understand how it might feel and how it might work for you. And some boards are for some people and some aren't for others. So I think that is possibly the big thing that's missing. I know that they do have more details on their website. I haven't gone through that in a load of detail as yet. There was a lot of information on there that I didn't get a chance to go through. Interesting that they've gone for a koala-style side profile. That's interesting design choice. You
can't really see it in the renders in the thread, but you can kind of see it if you look towards the bottom of the side here. It's just a very gentle kind of sloping angle, kind of like the koala, or I guess. What other boards have done that? I guess the koala really inspired it, but a lot of other boards have taken inspiration from it, to say the least.
Yeah. The TPU printed gaskets is really interesting. So for many of you that don't know, you can 3D print TPU these days fairly successfully. So it'd be interesting to see how those come out. I've used the material, but I've never tried it as a gasket material. It's one of the few things I've not tried, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes. The transparent silicone silencing mat, I imagine this is going to be very similar to the mat that was inside the Matrix 1.20G when that shipped, and some other subsequent Matrix boards. That kind of worked really well. It was better than I was expecting it to be for that kind of sound dampening aspect of a board. So interesting to see how that goes. I guess a lot that's missing for this for me is kind of like the price. Given the fact that it's got a fixed internal cable with LEMO connector and yank-proof mounting assembly, whatever that means, I don't know. We just need to see more. We just need to see these things. I mean, very little of it's visible, and I think we just need to be able to see more. So, yeah.
Yeah, from the external shots, it seems like a fairly straightforward board. Internally, it could be a little bit more complex, obviously, with the gasket mounting style, fixed limo, all sorts of that kind of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see on a price on this, but I assume it would probably be somewhere in the $350 to $400 range for the
I don't
TKL,
know.
but maybe a little cheaper.
When you start to add in the fixed Lemo connector,
That's true.
Polycarbonate, 3D printed parts as well, silencing mats, stainless steel internal weights, I think this could be a little bit more expensive than we're expecting it to be honest.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It doesn't look bad. It looks very standard. But I do like the fact that he is going with polycarbonate on this. I think maybe we have a small lack of polycarbonate TKLs at the very least.
Maybe. I think there's other things on the market that I would be more interested in right now. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this goes. Let's put it that way. I think it'll do well anyway in this community. Let's be honest. People are going to like this. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's go ahead and move right along into our next topic, which is kind of a rehash in a way. This design was kind of teased in another format, I think back in somewhere in 2018 or 2019. But this is kind of a rehash, but it's a rather new design as well compared to the previous one, I believe. And this one has quite a bit more detail in it, so I kind of wanted to go over this one a little bit. This is the Returned Wing. 75%, which I think is kind of an interesting name and maybe a little long-winded to say the least. But a couple quick specs here. Obviously, aluminum housing, a 7.5 degree angle. You're going to have plate options of aluminum, brass, and titanium, which is kind of cool. I always like seeing titanium plate options. There's kind of a two-weight system here, so there's kind of a two accents or two weights that I'll show off momentarily, but those can either be in aluminum, brass, or steel. And the PCB is going to be Type-C per key RGB. It's actually going to be designed by Oben's Lab, who did the AN Pro. So that's kind of interesting. And it's also going to be 2 millimeters, which is a little strange for a PCB, I feel like, on a custom keyboard. But, I mean, I guess if you're using a metal plate, it probably doesn't matter too much.
Especially titanium plate as well, of all things.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm going to scroll through some pictures here. But how do you feel about this design?
I think there's a lot of missed potential on this design. I think I'm very much in the camp that when we talked about before. I kind of feel like having that whole the 4 keys in the top corner, so like a 660 layout but extended. What was the board that made that really popular? I can't remember now.
The Varmillo VA.
Yes, I can't remember which was. Something like that, yeah, 68 maybe. I just feel like there's a lot of wasted space with the way that logo is kind of on the side, and there's a big block of area underneath it. It just kind of feels a little bit wrong. The other thing that I dislike as well is the fact that the arrow keys don't have a blocker across the top. It just feels like the blocker comes down vertically and then it doesn't go horizontally. And I know that's so that they can keep the keys kind of more left oriented. It just doesn't work for me. The blockers on the bottom row being different sizes as well. Again, it just looks kind of weird. I'd have been tempted to just remove one of the blockers and only have one available on it. I don't know, man. I feel like it's missing some things, and I think it could have just been the layouts could have been thought out a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you here. We don't really have any renders that I saw, unless there's like an extra exploded section, but we don't really have any renders with keycaps. Which is kind of different, and it doesn't really give us an idea of how the board will look completed. But judging from the top-down view without the keycaps, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think the different size blockers looks kind of funky. I don't mind the 4-key cluster. I think that's fine. That's just more of a layout preference. But they also do this thing on the bottom 2 blockers here, the win keyless blockers rather, where they kind of sink them down a little bit. So there's actually a lip over on the bottom.
Yeah.
But they don't do that on any of the top ones. So that's maybe a little inconsistent, and I assume that was intentional, but I think that might look kind of strange once actually assembled.
I agree. The other thing as well is that the bottom blockers have got significantly more rounded corners. The fillets on the corners are significantly more rounded, whereas on the top blockers they're much more square in shape, and that's probably going to look a little bit jarring to the eye as well, potentially.
Yeah. I think the design has potential, but I think you're right in that maybe there's some missed opportunities here for this to
It
be
just needs a little bit
even.
of refining. That's all. I don't think it's terrible. It just needs a little bit of a tweak and a push in the right direction, and it could be a lot better than what it is. I think it's designed to be a very rigid mounted board anyway, irrespective of how you look at it. Thick titanium plates, thick PCBs. It's going to offer a really firm typing feel. So this isn't going to be for everyone, especially given the fact that the community has been more orientated towards a soft typing feel more recently. In terms of good things that I do like about this board, I kind of like the base design. Not particularly the badge or the rear weight, but I actually like the shape of the base. I think that's kind of interesting. I like the slope at the back. I like the angled sides. I like the side profile of the board quite a lot. I think that looks really interesting. Again, on the base, I'm not a massive fan of the wing logo, and it kind of jars me that it's not the same as the logo on the front of the board. I feel like the logo should match. Yes. They're very different. That kind of bugs me a little bit. And then the kind of the rear weight, that just feels like it's screwed on as an afterthought. It doesn't feel like it actually has any right to be there. I would much rather see either integrated properly into the case or just get rid of it.
All right, hot takes, but very, very valid. I can kind of see where they're going with the accent bar. I'm okay with it. It does kind of give you a little bit of that visual, like shiny metal aesthetic that an accent bar or a weight otherwise just would give you. It doesn't feel too out of place to me, but the badge design I totally agree with. I don't really think the badge design is as good as it could be on the top badge. I actually really like the accent on the bottom, that kind of butterfly wing almost aesthetic. I think that's kind of cool. One thing that confuses me a little bit here, though, is he claims it's top mount, but if you look at the exploded view, it looks more like it's a gasketed sandwich, as the screw actually goes through the bottom, the plate, and the top.
Yes.
So I don't know if I'd really call that top mount, but it seems
it's more of a burger sandwich mount in my head. I agree.
Yeah, so it seems more like a gasketed sandwich mount, which is fine, but I think that maybe needs to be clarified because this, to me, does not seem top mount. Yeah, but other than that, I don't hate it. I think the design has potential. It looks fine, but I agree on the layout choices. Maybe make all the blockers consistent. Maybe do the bottom row layout a little different so you can have symmetrical blockers, perhaps give a little bit of visual consistency,
or just get rid of the right hand one or the left hand one or something. I don't mind. Just the fact that they're all odd sizes looks a little bit weird to me.
Yeah.
It just feels like this board is kind of it's like someone's first revision. It's like, I kind of want to do something like this, and then instead of refining their design and iterating on it, they've just kind of stopped and said, what do you think, public? And I think like it just needs to be pushed. Chat's highlighting something else that I was going to move on as well about the PCB. This PCB does not look like it will be QMK compatible. It looks like it will very much be proprietary, given the description.
It's interesting because if you actually read through this thread, they seem immensely happy and proud of this PCB. Like they are very, very happy about it. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Maybe it is going to be super awesome, but I feel like to launch custom keyboards in our community these days and not have them at least work out of the box with QMK is maybe a mistake.
Yeah, one of the interesting quotes on that is it's extremely mature and powerful, and maybe one of the most powerful PCBs you have ever seen on a customized keyboard. We customize a special driver and optimize the function and interface. It's no exaggeration to say that the power of this PCB is almost enough to satisfy all of your imaginations for CMMK PCBs. I assume that means custom mechanical keyboards. I kind of feel like that's a stretch. It feels like someone who maybe doesn't know the landscape and doesn't know what QMK is compatible with, or via or via, or however you want to pronounce it as well, and kind of like the functions you can perceive through there. Either that, or they are absolutely spot on with the money, and this is so far removed from everything we're expecting that this might be the next great thing in terms of PCB software. I very much suspect it's the former rather than the latter, but hey. I remain to be proven wrong.
As a couple people in chat have pointed out, it could be something that's a little lost in translation, but like I was saying before, they seem really, really proud of this PCB, and maybe we can give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe it's going to be awesome, and we just don't know it yet, but at the end of the day, this could be a dangerous misstep as well.
It could. I mean, the other thing that they say as well, like you mentioned, is it's from Obin's lab, who did the An protein. But the An Pro software isn't that great. It's kind of okay, but it's a bit clunky. I remember using it myself. I haven't used it for a couple of years, but it's not as easy as VIA or VIA, however you want to pronounce it, and it's not as powerful as QMK. So
Yeah. So this is quite an interesting product, but we'll have to wait and see more on it, I suppose. See what kind of design choices they decide to end up with. I do kind of wish that bottom accent design, this bottom wing design right here, I wish that was also the badge logo on the top. I think that would look a lot better to me.
Agree.
But,
It's weird that they're not the same. It's just really bizarre.
yeah, this one like doesn't even really look that much like a wing. I guess maybe it's supposed to be a feather because the board previously had a different name, and I believe the previous name was Half Feather, and now it's Returned Wing. Both could be just, poor English translation, but I don't know. I'm not going to be the one to call that out. But we will check this out again once it reaches the group buy phase, of course. But one thing I know that you like a lot is alternatives to the Alice, Jay. Right? Am I right? You like seeing lots of those, right? So here's more. Which is of course fine. I'm mostly trolling here. I actually, oddly enough, I kind of like the design of this one. So yeah,
this one's an Alice clone with some rotary encoders, right?
Well, it is sort of an Alice clone, and it does indeed have rotary encoders. You're not wrong.
Okay, next topic.
Come on,
I'm
wow.
joking. I'm joking. Go on. Tell us more about it.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, again, this is kind of an Alice alternative here called the Trifecta. This is by Swift Tracks and Two Moons. It is a top mount board. You can get it in aluminum or polycarbonate, and I actually like the polycarbonate quite a bit. I'll show off that momentarily. Same with the plate. You can get it in aluminum or polycarbonate or potentially brass, because he kind of has some confusing sentences in this thread. 5-degree angle. The PCB has perky RGB, hot swap, and of course, like you can see in this picture, supports up to 3 rotary encoders. There's going to be a brass weight, and it's also going to come with some case foam. So let me take a look at some of these polycarbonate renders, because I do think these really, really pop with the design. I think it's much, much nicer than the aluminum models.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I think it does look nicer in the polycarbonate than it does in the aluminium. I think, okay, so, I mean, real take, I know I was memeing a few seconds ago, but I think having rotary encoders is eminently useful on a keyboard. I'm not quite sure what I would need 3 for, and the fact that they are so close together does look like it might cause usability problems with them as well. If you're the type of person that likes to hold onto a knob and twist it from above, the fact that you might not be able to get your fingers in to do a twist and things like that might just be a little bit too close together. I've seen this on a couple of macro pads. I've tried it when they've been really close together. You sometimes bash your fingers on the other one, and if you move it, then it changes to another setting. I guess you could kind of just scroll these from the side, but I don't know how useful that would be. But it is nice to see them now. It is nice to have them as an option. I potentially, personally put a little bit more gap between them, something like that maybe. But it's nice to have arrows on an Alice style layout, I guess. I mean, and this kind of makes it more reminiscent to me of something like the EM7 or something like that, rather than the Alice style layouts. It kind of evokes that kind of feeling for me a little bit more. In terms of design, again, it looks fine. I kind of like the rounded corners, and I kind of like the chamfered edge all the way around. That feels quite nice to me. It feels almost like we're stepping into kind of like Fjell territory around. It's quite chunky. Maybe that's something we need to see, actually, a Fjell Alice clone. Maybe that's what we need to see.
Oh, wow. I don't know how well that would go over.
I don't know. It might be awful, but it might be cool. Who knows?
Yeah, I get the feeling that design would look pretty awful on an Alice style board. But who knows? Maybe Leandrin has it in the works. Who knows?
Maybe. The biggest problem I have with this board is the way it looks aesthetically from a top-down view. And the reason for that is because you've got these nice profiled sides. You've got a flat top, comes down nicely, and then along the base you've kind of got this off-centered angle for where the board angles, and it just looks too much to the left hand side. You can kind of eliminate that sometimes by having clever design where you have maybe a flat bit across the bottom and it's not all down into a point, and there's other things that you can do. That's the only really jarring point about the design for me on this one. The rest of it, I kind of don't mind it. I kind of like the rounded corners and the thick bezels, to be honest, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's a fine design. I don't think there's anything terribly wrong with it, to be honest with you. And man,
Yeah,
that polycarbonate I think just looks so nice with the rotary encoders too.
yeah, it is interesting how some of the renders have different views as well. So some of the renders have roundels cut out for the rotary encoders, and other ones have squares cut out as well. So I don't know if this is going to be interchangeable. Either you could put a switch there, or you can put a rotary encoder there.
Yeah,
It's interesting why there's two designs for that. So some of the renders have different.
yeah. I haven't actually checked out the interest check form. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it's possible that they have like a you vote for it. Like maybe you vote if rotary encoders are more popular, then this will be the default top, for example. Or if switches are more popular, that'll be the default top, for example. Or maybe you'll have your choice between the two in the group buy. That could be really cool too.
Maybe, yeah. It's not listed in the interest check. I did have a look earlier on in the in the form. It's not listed in there. So I don't know. I assume it's just going to be a cutout that's either or. It will fit both depending on what you want. If that's the case, then that might be better for me because then I could have two switches and one rotary encoder at the top. That would be much more eminently
That'd be
useful
cool.
for myself. But yeah, three stacked close together. I just feel like I'd end up bashing one. I don't know if you've ever used like a stereo where it's got more than one control knob or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard sometimes, especially if you want to press them, like control them, twist them, and then push them in. If you want to use that kind of press functionality on something like this, that could be quite difficult. It just feels too cluttered there. But there we go.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So that again is the interest check for the trifecta. Let's go ahead and move on to something else that's also kind of interesting. So this is the interest check for the Hex.6C, a gasket-mounted full size with a knob also. So we're getting more knobs, Jay. I know how you like to see those.
More knobs. Yeah,
Always
sure.
more knobs. Jay really appreciates knobs, as many as possible.
Hey, if you've got a nice single thick girthy knob, I'm probably interested.
Yeah, yeah, and rightly so, of course. So this is kind of a new custom full size design. So the interest check here is pretty nice. He kind of talks about how there's not very many of this kind of thing on the market, and he kind of wants to change that. So this is his kind of take on it. This is the Hex.6C, and as you can see, it has a left-handed numpad. Although I think you can kind of vote for a right-handed one in the thread. But at least right now, this has a left-handed numpad, similar to the Southpaw full size, so it is a left-handed layout. This one kind of has that knob going on there, as you can see above the numpad, so that's kind of different as well. We're looking at an aluminum case. It's going to have options for win keyless or win keyed top. It's going to have a 6.9 degree angle. Nice. It's going to have a USB-C PCB, hopefully QMK. Don't really know. Colors, we're looking at black, E-white, and potentially a third color that is yet to be decided. Plates, similar thing here. We're looking at copper, aluminum, and potentially a third material as well. Knobs, pretty much more the same, aluminum, brass, or copper, and they're looking at an MOQ of 200, which is kind of
Big
insane.
MOQ.
Yeah, that seems a little intense, but it's certainly possible it could sell 200 or more units, especially given the price. So this is actually looking at a pretty competitive price point of $250 to $300, and that's pretty good considering most full-size customs have been much more than that. And the Southpaw full size did have configurations as low as about $310. I know that because that's what I got. But if they can achieve something close to that $250 price point, I think that's going to be really, really popular and sell quite a few units. And maybe that's what that 200 unit MOQ is based off of.
It probably is, and that's fine. I think selling 200 isn't the issue. It comes down to quality control and shipping. 200 units is not a small amount of work when you consider how much work needs to go into checking the boards over, checking and testing the PCBs, packaging, boxing everything up, shipping it out, all of that kind of stuff. It's a long time, so you need for that kind of number of boards, you need a team of people ready and willing to work on that to get it out in any reasonable time frame. So for people that haven't considered that, I always kind of want to stress that that's something you need to consider. Have a plan on how you're going to approach that, because 200 units is a lot. In terms of the plates, it's kind of interesting that they're offering both the standard numpad and a mirrored numpad as well. Some people in the chat have been talking about this. I'm kind of not a fan of either on a Southpaw board. I think, like some others have mentioned, that we need a better solution for left-handed numpads. Neither work really well for me, even I think one could work well in my workflow. But it's good to see that they have the two main options, and they're going to do separate plates for them as well. So at least we don't have plates that are configurable for everything and end up being full of holes and not working particularly well. I think looks-wise, the case looks okay. It's interesting that it's gasket mount, and they're kind of using an interesting material for the gasket as well. Well, not material, because it's going to be silicone or poron, but what they're doing is they're going to use this kind of tubing strip that you kind of slip stuff in. I actually considered using some of this stuff myself when I was doing the JO1 design originally, and the problem with it is the tolerances on it aren't always great, so sometimes you get the right compression, sometimes you don't, but if they can find a manufacturer that can provide them this kind of like U-shaped long stripping seal, it's usually used for windows and things like that, so if you've ever modified a PC case, you might have seen something similar to this kind of stuff before. So if they can find a good manufacturer for it, then maybe it'll work well. But yeah, I think it looks fine. It's nice to see a full size though. Really nice to see a full size, because we don't see them often enough, is my view.
Yeah, I totally agree. Not only nice to see a full size, it's nice to see one with a fair amount of thought put into it. Not only is that gasket mounted situation kind of interesting, check out the actual plate they're using too. It almost looks like they're making a leaf spring plate kind of approach, as well as that gasket mount. So I think this looks pretty interesting, and especially at that price point, I think this is going to be hard for me to say no to.
So the other thing that they need to bear in mind as well, if they haven't got prototypes for this, is that leaf spring gasket mount isn't going to build too much flexibility into the case, because I mentioned that there's only a 7-degree angle and the front height's quite short. So they need to make sure that if that is going to flex, it's not going to flex and bottom out on the inside of the case. They need to make sure that there's enough room inside the base of the case to prevent that hitting, because that's awkward when you're typing and it's a really soft bouncy feel, and then all of a sudden it clatters on the bottom of the case. That's not good. So you do need to make sure that that room is there and built in for the design. So work out how much the plate's going to flex at maximum, work out how much it's going to flex in the centers and the edges and all of that kind of stuff with the leaf spring and with the gaskets, and make sure you've got the room inside for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of interesting. I'm definitely on the lookout to see what changes here and what steps they take before the group buy phase, because I would certainly be convinced to buy one of these potentially.
Is it just me, or the bento renders slightly off color? Oh, it's not bento, it's Azure. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Whoa. I was looking at it, I was thinking it looked right at the
tasty.
towards the bottom. I glanced at it, I thought it was bento. I thought the colours just look really weird for that, and then I realised it's not actually bento at all.
Oh wow, it's very much not bento.
Yeah, I was just glancing at it. I thought they just bento and got the colours all wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it is bento. Who knows? We don't even know about key sets anymore these days, because there's so many of them. In fact, we will be covering this one later on the show.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So that looks pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and move over to the next topic. And this one we don't have a ton of info on, but it seems potentially kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. So this is the interest check for the Rabelius, I think is going to be how it's pronounced. Lord Rabel, I'm going to presume is that name. So this is kind of an early interest check. There's not a ton of information, as you can see, but one thing that kind of stood out to me is that this is similar to that kind of open component design of the the plaid, the gingham, the discipline, that whole kind of thing. It's like a take on that, but maybe a little bit less entry level. So maybe kind of taking this towards the mid-range or towards the high end with like an actual metal housing and higher end components and such. So how do you feel about this kind of approach to an otherwise fairly budget friendly and mundane style tradition?
I think it's a good idea. It's not the first one that I've seen either. So I don't know if you guys have seen, but Socialite's doing something very similar called the Argyle, which is kind of a premium through-hole component style build. And I think they're all good ideas. It's great to see this kind of thing. And to me, it's kind of the way I see it, it's almost like an upgrade path. You join a group buy and you get one of these kind of through-hole kits, and then you think, oh, do you know what, I want the next step, and all of a sudden you can add a premium case on it. And I think that's a good idea. Having the components visible, some people will like that, some people won't. That's entirely personal preference, but I don't think this is necessarily a bad idea. I do personally feel like 1800 is probably a bit too big for one of these kind of boards. I just think it's going to end up with a really huge forehead, and it's going to be a massive beast of a board, which is fine if you like that kind of thing. I think it would suit smaller boards better. Maybe a TKL or something like that would have been better for this kind of view, I think. But I don't dislike this. I think it looks great. I think the idea is great. I think it's got a lot of potential. I'm interested to see how it goes.
Yeah. Yep, and that's pretty much all there is to say about it because we don't really have any more info. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of design, then it seems like there are certainly more of them coming these days, which is kind of nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, moving over to this interest check. This is the Serenity, a split cluster 65% with a knob. This is by No Lullaby, who looks like he or she is very new to Keycap. And this is quite an interesting product. And one thing I'm going to point out right away, because it really bothers me, is, and it's consistent with the entire thread, I think, is all the pictures are really low res, all the renders rather. And I don't understand why you, like, if you're going to do renders, why have them low res? I don't really understand that. So that's kind of a bummer. But with that in mind, let's actually talk about the rest of the board here. So aluminum housing, 6.9 degree angle. Nice. That's the second time we've seen that today already. It's going to have a base plate that's going to be available in a mirror polished steel or potentially PVD brass. Switch plate, I believe, is pretty much the same. Knob is going to be brass as well. PCB is going to be QMK and USB-C, and I believe this is this user's first group buy, and they want to limit it to about 20 or 25 units, so it's not going to be a particularly large run. It's also not going to be particularly cheap, as the estimated cost is about 500 plus, and I could certainly see it being a bit more than that, depending on some of the options that they go with. So this is honestly, I think this board does look really, really cool, and it's very interesting. And it's very obvious to tell that they pulled inspiration from a lot of other boards. You see a lot of Key Cult in this. You see some other boards as well, and I think he even mentions that later in the thread. But yeah, how do you feel about this kind of unique design?
I kind of like it. I like the side profile. That's kind of unique. You're very much right in terms of things like the base are inspired by Key Cult. It's got the knob on there. I don't like how the knob's implemented, if I'm honest. We'll come to that in a second. I think that this has been designed as kind of like what could this person's version of an ultimate keyboard be, and that's a fine way to go about approaching stuff if that's how you want to do it. But this is not going to be cheap to produce. This is going to be really, really expensive to make. This is not going to hit that $500 price, but I think it's going to be significantly more than that. There's just looking at that kind of exploded view. So it's kind of like a full isolation gasket mount type, very similar to things like the Kepler and the JO1 kind of thing. And you can't get much detail here because the renders are pretty low quality. That whole base plate is going to be expensive to machine. It's a 3-part case. PVD is difficult to get right. We know that a lot of vendors have had problems getting PVD done correctly. Polished stainless steel seems easier to do, but there's still challenges with that. So I think this looks really nice. It could be a really, really nice keyboard, but I do not expect this to be cheap. And if this was someone's first group buy, I would expect them to probably approach a vendor to try and help them to manage this, because it's going to take a lot on the quality control side. It's going to take a lot on the packaging side to make sure that it's shipped successfully. A couple of other small things I have noticed as well. The exploded render is not actually the render of the board that we see in the other pictures. You can really clearly see that when you look at the side profile of the top case. So the top case is just a rectangle block on the exploded view. It doesn't have that sweeping curve. Either that or there's a seam that isn't shown in the other renders. But again, it seems to be that the top case should encapsulate the bottom, and it doesn't necessarily show that on here particularly well. So the exploded render does need updating, I think, so that might change things. In terms of the design itself, I like the chunky bezels. I like the wing keyless blocker. I like the arrow key implementation. That exploded right-hand side, is really nice. I don't like how big and chunky the knob is. I know I was joking about girthy knobs earlier on. I think a narrower knob and just tighten it all up a little bit in that top corner would be a bit nicer. But I do really like the base. I think the base looks great, and if they can pull it off in polished stainless steel with that logo engraved in it, then I think it'll look fantastic. But it's not going to be cheap. That's a huge slab of stainless steel to polish, and that's expensive. It's not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. So this could be incredibly expensive, but I think for a lot of people, if this is your kind of product, this is kind of one of those grail products that is supposed to be all of everything, full ass, no punches pulled kind of board. So I don't know. I think it's kind of polarizing. I think people are either going to really like this or really dislike it, but the kind of people that are going to like it are probably going to really, really like it. I agree with pretty much everything you did say, though. I think that bottom design is quite nice. The knob seems a little out of place. I do like the chunky bezels, though, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what the final pricing on this is going to be, because honestly, like you said, 500 does seem almost a little low here potentially for some of the options they're looking at going for.
It seems incredibly low. I mean, I genuinely don't think you certainly couldn't get a prototype for that. And running a group buy, you with stuff like this, you have to make sure you've got enough extras. That base is going to be fraught with quality control problems. You need to be able to make sure that you can buy enough extras to cover any issues that you have in the group buy and all that kind of thing. So you know, you just need. I think you just need someone with a bit of experience and guiding hand to walk that through. But it is really nice. It has a lot of potential, does this board. It reminds me of the Kajal, the 40% that's going to run next month from Wallet Burner. It reminds me of that kind of layout, but a 60% or 65% version. So
certainly, yeah. So we'll check this out again once it hits the group buy phase, of course. And speaking of group buy phase, let's talk about the Fat Boy, Jay. What do you know about the Fat Boy? Tell me about it.
Man. So for those that you might not remember, this is a board that has a very, very interesting design and a very, very interesting mounting system, and it's now come to group buy. So this board is a love of labor, or labor of love, depending on how you want to look at it, from Must Code. And this is kind of a board that he's designed to be so robust that it's going to still be in existence in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, and still work exactly as it does today, which is a great and ambitious goal, and I wish him the best on that. Now, in terms of the actual design, it's kind of a multi-part design. You've got a case, you've got a plate that sits over the top of the internals, and then the internals kind of have their own structure and scaffolding that just slots inside the base. So it's really interesting from a design perspective. And for those of you who don't recall this, it actually has this whole unique, really customizable mounting style. So the PCB is mounted on tabs, so it's PCB mount, it's not plate mount. And that PCB mount can then be adjusted in all of the different areas, so you can have it different across each of the tabs if you want. And I think there's something like 6 different ways each one can be mounted with different O-rings in different positions. And of course, you can change those O-rings out for different sizes. Now, this probably doesn't make any sense because it's really difficult to explain.
Yeah.
And there's only one picture of the kind of internal scaffolding that's on display as well, which is quite far down the IntroCheck thread. So you can kind of see where it's got some of the screws holding some of the bump-ons in place, and sort of the O-rings in place, and how that mounting works. But that kind of scaffolding does give you a ton of different options in terms of how to mount it. So you can get a firmer typing feel or a more flexible typing feel. You could make it firmer on the modifiers and softer toward the center of the board. You could do a lot of different things with this. You could have different materials. You could do all sorts of stuff. So from that perspective, it is really, really, really interesting. In terms of the design, it's a chunker. Now, you may or you may not appreciate the looks on that, but that's entirely up to you. And in terms of layout, it is kind of heavily restricted. So the PCB is done by Yankar, so we know it'll be a quality PCB, but it is really restricted to kind of 60% with a 7U bottom row. So it's almost a Sangan layout overall, to be honest, with F keys on top. So that's kind of it. That's all you've got in terms of that. And it does have a really, really unique and interesting connector as well at the back of the board for the USB stuff. So there's a separate daughter board that provides breakouts to multiple different options. You can have these really cool, from what I understand, these really cool kind of vintage style connectors on the back as well. So all sorts of really interesting stuff. Interchangeable rear base plates, and you can change what connector it has from USB to all of these other things as well. So really, really interesting how they do that. But what do you think about it, Brian? That's what I'm interested in.
This board is absolute insanity. I think I can safely say it's one of the coolest keyboards to ever exist, ever. I mean, despite how you feel about how it looks, like it's just such a cool product. It really is. And even if it's not like the best thing ever, it's just such a cool idea. And for someone to put, and you said earlier, you said labor of love, that like barely begins to describe or scratch the surface on this. Like the sheer amount of effort and like time and prototyping to go into something this silly for a keyboard This person has my respect and admiration here. Sign me up. I want one.
Yeah, I kind of want one too, just because it's really cool and it's so different to anything we have today, and it's so customizable. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't daily drive it or anything like that, but it would just be a nice thing to
No.
own.
It's
It's a really nice.
it's a showpiece, right? It's the kind of board you pull out when your friends are over and you're like explaining to them how absolutely like amazingly asinine this beast monstrosity is. But like you don't daily drive it. No, it's like art. You know, this feels like an art style of keyboard.
Yeah, it is really, really, really interesting. Some of the big challenges. There's a couple of challenges with this board. So first and foremost, he says it doesn't support ISO. For me, that's kind of a worry. I have spoken to Yankar about this and asked him if we can put ISO on there, and I'll see if I can reach out and if I buy one to the vendor, if he's to the guy making this, and see if it must code, I think it's called, and see if he's okay with me having that one made, because I really would like to use ISO on this, because the layout could be fine with ISO for me. So I'm going to ask that and see if we can do that. And I think he also mentions that he'll speak to Yankar about doing that as well himself in there too. Now, but the more interesting thing for me is that he does mention that he could not get a high-end machine shop to work with him on this project. And that doesn't surprise me, because that case, that was internal pieces, there is a lot going on there, and that is not going to be easy or cheap to machine. One of the things that does mean is that the case might not be of the highest quality when it does arrive. You might have to, you might have some issues with anodization. You might have some things that aren't milled quite correctly. There could be some issues with that. It is worth bearing that in mind. But the positives may outweigh the negatives, and the fact that this is such a conversation starter and a conversational piece might outweigh that for you, and might outweigh that risk.
Yeah, and it's worth noting here that the starting price for the base kit is $460 too, which seems high, but it's really not. In fact, that's actually kind of low for this kind of design. So I wonder if that price is reflective in maybe that more B stock / C stock final product.
Yeah. I would expect that these are going to be not necessarily up to the levels of quality that we expect from some high-end boards, and B or C stock might be where I would kind of envision it, purely because just trying to find a manufacturer that would work on this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, but man, is this interesting. It's open until June 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, so you still got a while on that one. Shout out to Clay, aka Damage Point, on that tier 1 sub there. Appreciate that, my friend.
Nice, thank you, man. I think this might be a really good workhorse board for the workshop or something like that. That this could be that kind of board for me. If I can convince Yankar and the designer to do an ISO PCB, this could be that board for me that goes to the workshop, and it's just kind of a really solid, reliable, robust workhorse that's just solid and dependable, like one of those old super heavy typewriters that they had back in the day. Something like that. That could be quite interesting.
Yeah. So definitely kind of interesting. So if you want in on this, guys, it is open now. So yeah, I wonder how many do you think this is actually going to sell? I bet
realistically,
I bet like I think like 10. I think like 10 people are going to buy this.
No, I'd be disappointed if only 10 people bought that.
You think?
I think.
Okay.
I think it'll hit MOQ. MOQ's 20, right? I think it says in the interest check. And at 50, it means that he can make it a little bit cheaper because of PayPal fees and everything else.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if it didn't hit 20, but I'd be very surprised if it did hit 50. Yeah, 40 at most is kind of my gut feel on this.
Okay, fair enough.
But hey, I'm going to buy one. Let's be honest.
Melvin says, nah, community is weird, at least 30 plus. All right.
Yeah, exactly, right. I think you're right. There's enough people that'll be interested in having one of these just to have one, because it's so different, even if it's not a super high-end board, that I think it'll do just okay.
Yeah. We'll have to check that out again just to see what happened, because this really is one of the more unique custom pieces in this community, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. It's also worthwhile checking out Mustcode's YouTube because he does have a really nice collection of boards as well. So he's got a really nice collection of boards. I think he's actually got more Kippuras than I, which is kind of disappointing.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I think he's one of the four. So for those that you don't know, in Alpha Keycap's Discord, there's what's called the Parliament, because a group of ours is called a Parliament, and they're kind of like the biggest Kippura collectors. I think this guy's got the most of them. I think. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it is him.
Nice. Cool. We'll check out the Fat Boy again another time, see how it did. Let's move over to some key sets, shall we? Because we have quite a few of them.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, there's some variety, but certainly no slowing down on these GMK interest checks. So starting us off this week is the interest check for GMK Hallyu. I don't know actually how that's pronounced. I don't think it's an actual English word. So I'm just going to call it Hallyu because I don't know how to say it otherwise because I only speak one language because I'm lame. So yeah, but apparently it translates to the Korean wave, which is kind of just the Korean pop culture scene and how it's grown since the 90s. And there's a little bit more detail in there as well. It's a nice read, but interesting design here. But it's very, very colorful.
Yeah, I kind of like that though. I really like this set. Let's just talk about the base kit and the compatibility and things like that first of all. So if we jump over to the base kit, you can see that it's got coverage for pretty much everything. TKL full size. You've got a numpad included. Can do HHKB, some accent arrows as well, depending on how you want to look at those. 7U bottom row. It has ISO. I do have the usual problem with ISO that the two keys are the same. Just make them different. There's multiple options you can pick. I don't care anymore. Don't put UK ISO in if you don't want to, but just don't make those keys the same. I think that's the only thing that I'd fix from the base kit. I think that's fine. Other than that, it covers. I can't think of anything it wouldn't cover. Other than that. Then you've got the Soul Knights kit, which is kind of like the novelties pack for this one, and I kind of like these. It kind of reminds me of holidays in that kind of part of the world in the past. It's kind of very neon lights kind of thing, street food, all of that kind of stuff. I think these are really, really nice, and I think they work better than a lot of novelties that we see sometimes. So I'm really into these. I'm not sure about some of them. Maybe it's just that I don't get them. I don't know what the wording is in Korean on some of the, and I'm not quite sure what the curved kind of one represents. But the others I do really, really like.
Okay.
Then of course there's a Spacebars kit as well, which is just a Spacebars kit. So I think the only thing that I can see that it doesn't naturally cover is the Alice layout. It doesn't have an extra B anywhere, which is unusual these days. It's very rare we see that. So.
That is pretty interesting. Maybe you can use one of those additional pipe slashes in your for the. You can use that as your extra B, right? Anyway, yeah. So I think the a lot of this set is also kind of inspired by the kind of Korean nightlife and the party spirit, as he says. Yeah. So I think a lot of the novelties certainly have to do that with that as well. And he does explain quite a bit of this. But there's like Korean cinema. This is soju, which is of course very popular Korean alcoholic beverage. I think some of this may be like a fashion kind of thing, like Korean like pop culture, like pop icons, just K-pop stuff in general. Maybe some kind of fashion. I think it's an eyelash. Yeah.
No. Okay.
So I think that might have something to do with it. I think the food, this kind of bowl, I'm pretty sure that's bibimbap or something like that. But I'm not sure what the text is either. He might actually say it. I might have just missed it. But let's take a look at the renders on an actual board. And it seems like we have a lot of people like really getting so creative lately with GMK sets and the colors that they're choosing, because we've seen so many sets lately that are they're just differing so much from that more traditional GMK set formula that we're so used to seeing. And now we have all these rows and columns and in waves of color throughout all these key sets. Bushido just ran. We're going to be talking about multiple key sets today that follow similar kind of formats. So interesting that maybe people are getting a little bored with that traditional lighter alpha, darker mod GMK formula that we've been using for so long.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's great that we're stepping away from that. Bushido didn't quite work for me, but this really, really does. I'm genuinely really, really liking this set, and this is going to be on my must-buy pile. I honestly really like this. I think it's really, really well done. I'm not always the biggest fan of sub-legends. People know this. I'm not, into the whole kind of weeb stuff. I don't really like the hiragana ones and things like that. This really works for me. I genuinely really like this. I think the sub-legends look great and neat and tidy. I kind of like the fact that the glyphs used in the Korean language are kind of blocky and square and angular. It reminds me very much like of Cyrillics and other things and that kind of stuff. I genuinely think this has to be a must-buy for me. I just hope that they fix that kind of 2 ISO keys. As long as they change that, this is going straight to the top of my have-to-buy pile because I think it works really, really well. Renders look good. These look like Blotsky renders, I think. I've not checked, but these look very much Blotsky-like. So yeah, interested to see how it goes. But yeah.
Yeah,
Really
I mean, it's looking pretty good. I don't know if it's entirely for me. It's still maybe a little too colorful for my eyes, but I do appreciate what they're trying to do here. And like you were talking about in the sub-legends, I kind of agree that I think Korean sub-legends tend to just look a bit cleaner than a lot of other sub-legends do, just because the characters tend to be a little simpler. Obviously, I don't speak or read Korean, so I apologize if I'm being silly here. But like, I just like a lot of the aesthetic of the actual sub-legends. Like, some of them are just, what simplistic, like 1 or 2 lines, or this one's just like a box. Like, it doesn't take up a lot of visual space on the key, and I think that is really helpful. And not only that, but you have no actual non-Latin characters or whatever on the numero. So you don't have any of the Korean sub-legends there. So because on the hiragana sub-legend sets that we often see, those are populated often with duplicate legends. So just being able to remove that entirely kind of does make the set look just way cleaner by default, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think it looks really good. Genuinely, this is one of the few sets we talk about sets that are nice and that come up, and some that we like or don't like. But this really, really works for me. It genuinely works for me, and I really like this. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it already.
Cool. Well, we'll have to wait and see it actually arrive to get to the group buy phase. So. This is just one of many these days now, Jay. Just one of many.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
I know. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to something we kind of got a teaser of earlier on one of the keyboard group by threads. But this is interest check for GMK Azure, and this is by is what? Not GMK not bento apparently. So. Yeah, but it is a fairly kind of classical set. You kind of have, basically kind of a white and blue kind of approach. It is more of a cream, I get it, but, still kind of a red, white, and blue sort of approach. How do you feel about Azure, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, just to me, it feels a little bit bento-ish. I get that it is different. It does feel a little bit like that. It's interesting that they've chosen 2 RAL codes and a Pantone code for the warm red. We know that GMK is much easier to work with for RALs than it is Pantone, so I'll be interested to kind of see how that portrays out. I think this is fine. I don't like the Hangul sub-legends. These renders don't really feel like they're close to GMK. Yeah. They feel like they're off. They feel too boxy, too squared. They don't look like they're profiled correctly for the rows. So I think these renders are a little bit misleading, especially the kit renders. I don't feel like they are particularly cherry-ish look, so they don't look like GMK caps will, especially with those sub-legends as well. But I think they're fine for the Hangul kit. The base kit's okay. There is some challenge with the base kit, so I noticed that there's a lot of things that are missing and things I would potentially change about the base kit just because it feels a little bit wrong. And also the Hangul kit as well. The first thing I'd say in the Hangul kit is it only needs to be alphas. You don't need the number and everything else because that's identical to the base kit, so potentially do that as well. The other things that I've noticed as well is it's probably missing some keys in the base kit. It probably needs a couple of 1U keycaps for the control and alt. It's also missing a 1U FN key for the right hand 65% cluster for 65% users. There is also a few keys missing if you want to support ISO. It has 2 ISO enters there. It does not have short left shift and the row 4 cap, and it doesn't have the additional row 3 cap either. So it's missing those 2.
What's kind of interesting is there's 2 row 4 FN keys, but there's no 1U GUI keys.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, they need to be those FN keys on the bottom right. Change them to system or super or whatever, code, something like that.
There's also no row 3 control, which is kind of the fail these days on GMK sets. Yeah, definitely missing numerous things. You're missing all of your ISO keys too, besides the enter, right? Why put in the enter if you're not going to put anything else? Yeah,
there's no split
that's so weird.
There's no row 4 or row 3 key, but there's 2 ISO enters there, and it's kind of it feels like it's someone who maybe hasn't looked at the base kits. They've just kind of guessed around what they use potentially, and that's fine. That's not a bad starting position, but you always need to make sure that you are fixing the layout for popular support, or making it really clear that you're not supporting something as well. So.
Yeah, I would certainly hope this is not the final base kit, because this would suffer, GMK Hammerhead level problems if they launched a base kit like this at this time.
Yeah, interestingly, the Hangul kit does have the 2 ISO keys. They're both the same, and it doesn't make it clear that they're different rows, but it does have the 2 at the bottom, which is interesting. But you could get rid of so many different.
That odd.
Because
on
this Hangul kit, you could get rid of all the punctuation on the right hand side. You could get rid of the numero.
Well,
that doesn't need to be there because there's nothing different.
Well, however, you could argue that because they leave those in, you could potentially use it on 2 boards more easily. But they don't include the second tab in either of the kits anyways, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
This is the colors are fine. It's not an interesting set. I'm just going to say it. It's not that interesting of a set. It's just very classical, very mundane. It's red, white, and blue. It's nothing we haven't seen before. I totally agree with you on the style of the caps in these renders. It doesn't look like GMK at all, the caps nor the legends. So I feel like this is a little misleading. The base kit obviously needs a ton of work. But the renders that are actually below that are on the hex.6c that we checked out earlier, that actually looks more akin to GMK, and these look like actual renders. So
yeah, those are by King K22. He does some good renders. The base kits are done by someone else. I don't know who they're done by, but they're not particularly accurate to what GMK standard would be. My view is that I'm glad this is really early in the interest check phase, because this needs a lot of work. It needs to be re-kitted effectively, make some tweaks and changes to it, get some renders on some different boards that are a little bit more popular. I get that using that board that we looked at earlier on the Hex 6C is great because it shows all of the keys, but shows what it looks like on a 60 or a 65 and all of that kind of stuff as well. There's lots more opportunities out there.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit more effort, maybe some considerations and some community feedback, some more renders, of course, and we'll wait and see. Maybe this has more potential than I believe, but right now, it's looking a little clunky of an interest check. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. This interest check for JTK, Tripleshot, Griseann, and Royal Alpha. Is that how you pronounce that, by the way? I feel like I don't say that out loud very often.
Which Royal Alpha? Yeah, you say Royal Alpha.
No, the other one, Griseann.
Griseann, yeah. I don't know how it's supposed to be. I've always called it Griseann.
I have too. I just wasn't sure if that was right or wrong. Obviously, chat'll sort us out as usual, so no worries there. But yeah, if you're a fan of JTK and you like some of these more classic colorways with the green sublegends in particular, this could be something totally for you. So this is coming from Hoodrow Thrillson, and there's going to be effectively 2 base kits here, but as well as additional modifiers to kind of achieve different combinations depending on what you're after. So obviously you have a Griseann base kit here. And it looks pretty decent. You actually have the full you have the full UK ISO in there. You have numpad. You have all your usual HHKB Sangon 75, 65 kind of stuff.
It's even cleverer than that. It's even cleverer than that. It also, because of the way that all the sublegends are on this as well. So Depleted Vespine, I hope he's watching today. I don't know if he is, but it also, because of the way that the sublegend is on the ISO keys, it also supports US ISO on the same keys because the legends are there for both.
Clever,
and terminal style license as well. So, that being said, though, so one of the big things I've had, one of the big challenges I've had in the past is Griseann, or however you pronounce it, doesn't support ISO in the GMK version at all. There's no ISO support. It's just ANSI only, which isn't great for a lot of reasons. And my favorite set, or one of my favorite sets of all time, is the GMK version of Royal Alpha. I absolutely adore that set. I have it on my Polaris right behind me. I've shown it off on stream. It's no secret that I like a good green set. So to see this come up with UK ISO in both of the kits, and for them to offer the white mods as the de facto default for the Royal Alpha set, both of these are must buys. These are absolutely 100% in the basket the day they launch. Do the thing, click the buttons, spend the money, buy the thing, do it all, because these are really, really good kits. They're really well thought out. They cover pretty much everything. Yeah, these are really good.
Right. So a couple things that they are missing that may be a little bit more modern, obviously. We're missing an Alice B. We're missing an...
Those are the keys you can use for the Alice B.
Well,
Right?
true, but still, I'm just going to point them out. I mean, we're missing an Alice B. We're missing, what was the other one? We're missing a row 3 control. We're missing, F13, but obviously that's still kind of becoming more popular these days. So I mean, yeah. I agree that this is a nice base kit. This is a very nice base kit. But
it's a solid base kit.
It's a very solid base kit, absolutely. There could be a few more things you could throw in here, but it is a very solid base kit. So obviously that's the Griseann base kit. The Royal Alpha base kit, I think, is more or less the same, judging by these pictures. And then there's now also a green mods kit. So you can kind of buy either of the base kits and go ahead and use the green mods kit. I'm assuming people will generally use it for the Royal Alpha. But I was kind of curious, so I checked it out, but I don't see any. There's no actual renders with the green mod kit on the Griseann base, which I know might sound sacrilege, but I wouldn't mind maybe just seeing a render, just to see that, right? Because it would be just as easy to combine as the Royal Alpha monetarily. So.
Yeah, I think I'm sure I've seen a render with that on. I'm positive I've seen a render with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure it's in there somewhere when I was looking earlier on. The other thing, there's more renders at the bottom. I don't know if you've opened that up. Or
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's like in the comments.
I think I've seen it somewhere in the interest because I'm really interested in this. Just to note as well, there is another kit that we haven't talked about yet, which is a Spacebars kit. Now, this is the biggest Spacebars kit I think I've ever seen. It does include both of those LSBs.
It does have LSBs.
Them. And I suspect that might be the driving factor in the sales of this kit. So, yeah, interested to see this one go to group buy. Really excited for this one. I know Hudro doesn't like my hands, but hey, I like his key sets, so...
This is an insane Spacebars kit, by the way. That's so many keys. So many keys. I wonder what kind of pricing we're going to see on this. Are we still going to be able to keep really competitive JTK pricing? This is, obviously, being Tripleshot, it might be a little bit more expensive. I don't know. Is this going to be $100 base kit? Or is this going to be more in line, with something like GMK, and it's going to be more $120, maybe $125?
Yeah. I feel like it probably... For the base kit, I don't know. I'd like to see it around the $100, $110 mark for the base kits, just because I don't think they're particularly huge. They're kind of like a good way of cutting down a base kit, but keeping that core functionality for most users. I appreciate there's not much 40 support, and I appreciate there's no Alice support in the base kit, and I get all of that, but most users have more traditional layers, and I think these fit really well for them. I think it's quite a clever kit design. I think there's also some big props for some of the legends picked as well, such as the lock key for the caps lock. I think that's really cool. It harkens back to the original Royal Alpha run and the typewriter feel, which is where both of these sets originally came from. So yeah.
Yeah, I do like the lock key. However, I will point out that it does seem a little inconsistent being a text mod amidst text plus icon mods otherwise in the set.
Yeah, but that's just how the
I that's why I'm saying it's fine. It's fine. It's definitely it's a choice. It's a choice and it's a preference. But for some people, I think the consistency might get the better of them there. But yes, certainly if you're following historically accurate, that's fine as well. So good stuff there. But yeah, I can't seem to find the green mods on the Griseann.
Page 2 it's kind of like a mock-up. If you go into page 2, there is an image there. It's if you scroll down, it's like 2/3 of the way down the page.
I think I'm getting there. There we go. Very nice.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow. Somewhat the Photoshop, like how he just photoshopped it on. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. I'd like to see an actual render of that, but that's just me being, needy and silly. But I think that could be a potential really cool combo as well.
Pass. I think the only thing I won't pick up, and that's because I've got 2 sets of these I never use, is the green modifiers from the original Royal Alpha, the GMK Royal Alpha run. So I probably won't pick up the green mods. But someone said in chat it's Griseann is how you pronounce it rather than Griseann.
Oh, Griseann. Okay.
Yeah. Of course, how we missed that, I don't know. But yeah, so the Griseann and
we should have known.
Yeah, of course we should have known. I will pick up both of those two without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I assume I'll probably pick up at least one as well, assuming the price does stay pretty competitive. I think JTK, unless they've just massively increased their quality over the last couple sets, I feel like they should still be a cheaper option than GMK, and I really hope that stays true here.
The quality is improving. Did you try any of the triple shots before when they did the first one?
I haven't seen any other. I've seen pictures of their triple shot sets, but I haven't seen one in person yet.
Okay, next time I send you a care package, I'll send you one of my sets over because they're actually pretty good. They're pretty all right.
Okay.
They're not
fair enough.
They're definitely improving. They're definitely improving. I wouldn't say they're perfect, but then I don't even think GMK's perfect.
Well, so GMK's not perfect either. So.
I know GMK is the bar, but they're definitely improving. They're definitely getting.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine not to be as good as GMK. Totally fine. But the price has to reflect that, I think, as well. So that's always a big one for me. I mean, JTK sets, a lot of the JTK sets used to cost like $59 in group buy. And like they didn't have they had less compatibility, of course, but it wasn't like an insanely fewer amount of keys. So I mean I don't know. Obviously, getting better is a justification for raising price. Sure.
10's actually got a good point. Unusual, but 10 Strong's actually got a good point. He says that the on that double shot set for the SNES style inspired group buy, the additional alphas, the whole additional alphas kit was only $10. So I know 10's not always
That's
right
fair.
about things. I mean, that's pretty unusual, but he's right about that. It was only $10.
You're a bully today, Jay.
I'm grumpy. I'm very grumpy today.
Jay did tell me he was very grumpy before the stream today. Remember, I was grumpy last week. Jay's grumpy this week.
Yeah.
But that is a good point, though. That honestly is a good point. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm looking forward to this. Obviously, very high potential here. And as long as the quality comes out really well and the price stays relatively competitive, I think this is going to do very well. And
Hudro, I forgive you for the hand comments because I have to buy this set. So, yeah, I'll forgive you.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and move. Yeah, let's move. Please, Jay, we have so many more GMK interest checks to cover today. Please. Let's go on. We took a little break with the JTK for a second, but now we're going back to GMK. And this is actually an add-on kit, so similar to a lot of the other ones that we've been seeing lately. This is an interest check for GMK 2002. So this is kind of an RGB modifier kit that'll give you not altered colored caps, but altered colored cap legends. For some of your more vintage colorways like 9009, Classic Retro, and some of the OG Cherry stuff, so on and so forth. So it does use all stock colors, obviously the U9 base being the important one there, and then all of these being your legend colors. Because of that, it is MOQ of 150, which is very cool. And these are the included keys. So obviously we've been seeing, we've even recently seen GMK add-on kits of the RGB variety that was over on Novel Keys not too long ago. But how do you feel about this approach? Because this is obviously a little bit more, a little bit less in your face than having a full RGB cap. Do you like this approach?
I kind of like this. Yeah, I've always been a fan of those kind of modifiers, on the... I've liked kits like the Unicorn to add on the CMYK modifiers and all that. This is kind of more of a subtle version of that in my head. It's kind of like some nice modifiers. I'm a massive proponent of OG sets. Everyone knows I like all those kind of retro things. And, I have tons and tons of OG double shots and 9009 kits and all of that. Hell, I even got the Waytech board the other day and stuff. So I think for me, these are almost a must-buy. I buy pretty much everything that runs that goes with this kind of stuff just because it's nice to swap it out and change it out. And of course, MOQ is only 150 for something like this as well, which makes it relatively easy to hit. It's interesting. So to see. So yeah, $60 I think is where they're trying to aim at. I know they do have a bit of a warning on that to say that COVID and everything else that's going on right now might affect the MOQ, and that they might want to sell more of these before they actually go to production, just so they're not making risks and things, which is absolutely fine. I think it'll do well, though. I think this will do pretty well. It's definitely a must buy. The fact that adding row 5 to it as well makes it perfect sense to me too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to really say about it here. I think it's just a nice add-on kit, and hopefully they can get the price they're achieving. $60 seems about right, if not maybe a little high compared to the previous RGB kit that we saw, which had quite a few more keys, and it was also at $60. So, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But like you mentioned, I think this is going to be very universal. It's going to be very modular. It's going to, people are going to be able to very easily pop this on and off, multiple sets, and it's going to help out a lot of people because of that. So I have no problems with it. If anyone's curious about why it's called 2002, by the way, he does talk a little bit about it here. It's based on the Focus line of keyboards, the Focus 2000 line of Alps keyboards that have those particular keycaps, which I will I'll show you here in this little picture here. The shift, the alt, and the control, obviously there.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Very nice. There you go. Very short, very sweet. That's a pretty cut and dry one. I'll probably pick one up as well. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. Back to the full GMK interest check sets, Jay. Don't worry. This one is by Sam Wello, and this is an interesting one, actually. This is GMK Nova, and this kind of has kind of an astronomy feel to it, a kind of galaxy style feel, almost Twilight kind of not the actual meaning of Twilight, not the silly book series or whatever. But yeah, so this is GMK Nova, and this is another one of these sets that we're seeing that are a little bit more creative lately. A lot of people liking these kind of, what do you call this? Is like a gradient? Is that the preferred term in our community? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of these gradient sets coming out lately. How do you feel about this one?
Okay, so I've got some positive thoughts and some negative thoughts on this one. First of all, it kind of looks very similar to that SA Dream Eater set that we talked about a few weeks ago on stream. In fact, it might have been a couple of months ago we talked about it. So it's very, very similar to that. The gradient does go an opposite way, so it's kind of slanted slightly differently. It's not the same. It's not SA. It's not Pokemon themed. So it is a little bit different. So get that out of the way first. The second negative that I just want to touch on is some of the colours used in these renders are absolutely not achievable in plastics as we know them in double shot ABS. It just doesn't happen. Some of those bright blues that are almost vivid and electric, to have such deep and rich colour is really, really difficult to do in plastics as it is. We've never seen anything quite like that from GMK before. I'd be really surprised if those were easy to make or do, and I think that just tone it down a little bit in terms of the renders will probably make it more realistic. We had a really good conversation in the Discord earlier on today actually about how renders are a bit of a double-edged sword for the community. They're really, really good at showing off the potential of something and how it might look, but because renders are effectively just 3D drawings and they're not real, when you actually get a real physical sample, a render or a screen is going to be always very different to actually a physical plastic sample. So the renders are very much a double-edged sword. They're great for showing potential, but you shouldn't necessarily rely on them to be a picture perfect explanation of what you're going to get, because a physical sample is going to be very difficult. So it's always worthwhile bearing that in mind. I do think that blue, especially on the T and the Y keys and that kind of side of the gradient, are very difficult to do. The rest of them look absolutely achievable. Contrast is potentially going to be an issue on the kind of the teal coloured keycaps on the left-hand side. I'm not quite sure how they're going to look, but we've seen keycaps that have got those similar colours to those before, where the legibility of the contrast has been a little bit low. Towards the right-hand side of the board, I think it's going to be fine. So that's the negatives. The positives, I kind of like this. I hate to like things like this, but I do kind of like it. It's I'm not saying it's a must buy. I'm not saying it's definitely something I will pick up, but the lack of ISO in the base kit really makes me struggle with that as it is. But I do kind of like this. I don't dislike it at all. And speaking about that base kit, I think there needs to be some changes to it to make it fit for a lot of people. It's very, very sparse.
Yeah, the current proposed kits are pretty intense, because there's only a base kit and a novelties kit currently proposed, and like you're pointing out here, the base kit is severely lacking in quite a few compatibility issues, not even just ISO. So
Yeah, you're going to struggle with 65% support in some places.
Yeah, no stepped caps lock in a GMK base kit. When was the last time you saw that happen?
Yeah.
No row 3 control again. Yeah, some of the 65-70% stuff missing. Only
some of the shift keys missing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no ISO whatsoever. So this is a very limited base kit. It does cover a fair amount of standard stuff, but it is a very, very limited base kit, all things considered. I'm gonna assume that this is not the final base kit. I'm gonna assume that because that would be silly if it were.
Yeah. This is going to be one of the ones like Hammerhead, where we talked about earlier on. If this ran, I don't think it would work as this base kit. I think it limits itself too much in too many places to be comfortable for a lot of people. They would be better off removing the numpad and adding back in some of the stuff that they've taken out, and then running the numpad as a separate kit. I think that would be better.
I don't think there's any fixing this base kit. I think it needs to be redone from the ground up, if I'm being honest.
Maybe
there are too many things missing from this. I think you just need to take a more successful base kit from the past and copy that and build upon that if you need to.
Yeah, maybe.
I think just trying to continue and add on to this one might not work very well, or it might do very well. But I think it would require more work to actually add on to this one than just starting from scratch on something that is maybe a little bit more tried and true. But with that said, let's move on to the novelties. Which I would say they're pretty simple. I think these are all fine.
Yeah,
I wish they were actually rendered on a keycap instead of just being more of a KLE kind of thing. I suppose it kind of sucks that they're not actually rendered. I hope they do get that fixed in the thread. But they seem simple. They seem fitting. They seem okay, and I'm very, very okay with that. I would like to actually see them rendered though. Before actually saying any more about that. Death mats look fine.
That's not what you think it is. It's
Tasty,
telescope,
tasty.
dude. I think the novelties are fine. They work really well. I think they're actually kind of cute. And again, I'd like to see them rendered as well.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the base kit, one thing I think that doesn't work is the accent enters for the ANSI key. I think they'll be really jarring if you've got the kind of gradient. That's not going to look particularly attractive in my head, so I would probably just eschew those as well. One thing I do really like is the desk mats. I think both of those are really nice desk mats. I'm a big fan of space themed stuff. I like all of that kind of thing. I think the desk mats are fine. I think this has got a lot of potential. It needs to be a little bit clearer as well. I think this has been updated since I read it the other day, but in one of the interest checks that I did read for this, it mentioned that it was SA and now it's GMK, so I think it needs to be really clear on which that is. But yeah, I assume it's going to be GMK going forwards because that's what the title is, but in the original interest check it was SA. I assume they've moved away from SA because of the Dream Eater set, and they've now decided to do it in GMK.
They open with that a little bit in the thread as well. But so
I think it should be fine. Again, need to see what these colours are as well, because I suspect that those are Pantones and not RALs, given my suspicions on how bright you can do the plastics in ABS. And you can do some good colours in ABS, don't get me wrong. I just think some of those colours in those renders are going to be very difficult to achieve in real life. So probably need some more realistic renders in terms of what's actually achievable, because they are that double-edged sword that we talked about earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to wait and see on this, but I'm pretty interested in it as well. I don't tend to like gradient stuff usually, but I actually really like the theme here, the astronomy kind of theme, galaxies, space, all that kind of stuff. Like you, Jay, I have a big soft spot for that too, so I think this could potentially go over pretty well. Looking forward to seeing the revisions they make, though, because hopefully they don't launch straight like that.
Yeah. Switch Keys AU, thank you very much for the 300 tasty bits. Thank you for those, dude. Really, really appreciate those. And Jaguar, thank you very much for the tier 1 gift sub as well. Thank you, dude. That's gone to K Wilden as well. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that.
Yes. Also, a quick shout out to Talisman Solutions, who did gift a tier 1 sub to Hood Growth Thrillson earlier. So we missed that, nice. But shout out to you on that one. Thank you so much, guys.
Nice, yeah.
All right, now let's talk about what I think is quite an interesting set. So this is the interest check for PBT STEM. I don't know if we really have a manufacturer for the PBT yet, so we don't really know who necessarily is going to be making this, but it is kind of an interesting take on an otherwise more classic kind of ideology, I guess you could say. So
Yeah.
they do kind of go into detail a little bit here. I'm not going to kind of reread any of this, but it seemed a little bit about the original Space Cadet keyboard and kind of the evolution of how it's happened up till now, and this kind of stems from the or draws inspiration rather from the symbolic Space Cadet keyboard and expands the symbols more or less to cater to the use of Lisp users and more towards the modern academic users. So it definitely seems like a much more modern take on that kind of thing. And man, are these legends interesting.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. So first of all, I know when this went up, there was some inconsistencies with the titling. It was originally gone up as GMK, and then it changed to PBT. I think it was always intended to BBT, and that was just an error on it was typo on their behalf. They just typed the wrong thing. It happens. People do it. But yeah, I think this is really good. First of all, STEM subjects are a great thing to support. We need more people in STEM kind of jobs growing up and things like that. So to actually promote this and kind of push forward on something that kind of theme, I think it's a really good idea. So I'm all for that. Absolutely think science, technology, engineering, all that kind of stuff. We need to be pushing on it. So to support something like STEM subjects is really good. I also really like the fact that this is different alpha legends that are kind of cool as well, like the lambda symbol, the pi symbol, all of those kinds of things. I'm a really big fan of these. I studied a lot when I was growing up, as most people do. I was massively into physics and a few other things as well. That's what I did at university, and I genuinely really enjoyed looking at this key set. It's really, really nice to see some of those really, really common characters that people don't always see or don't necessarily always understand what they mean, but to put them into a key set. And I'm a massive fan of this. I think this could do really, really well. Classic colorway, black and white. Some of the legends are a bit funky on the modifiers. I'd probably want to change those to something more standard, but the alpha cluster, absolutely think it's great. Really big fan of this.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think this set is really all about the legends, and it's less about the colors, obviously. So I think the white on black classic kind of aesthetic there is absolutely perfect for kind of displaying these symbols in particular. So I don't really understand a lot of them. I know what most of them, or I don't know what most of them are. I know what some of them are, but I don't really understand a lot of these. But even still, I think it's a pretty cool set. It seems pretty fun, pretty creative, and for some people, maybe even beneficial. I know someone in chat, Meeptastic, said, as a math teacher, this is a lifesaver. So maybe it actually benefits some people too. Like, that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I mean, the other thing as well that you could do is you could do some funky things with the numpad as well, and take some inspiration from some old graphical calculators, maybe for the legends on the numpads. Given the fact this is going to be die subbed, you don't need you don't need molds or anything like that, because it's all going to be die sublimated legends. So yeah, I think there's some opportunities to explore there. I would potentially change some of the legends from the modifier keys. I think they could be a little bit better. I'm not kind of a fan of the curved end sort of arrow and things like that, but the alpha cluster, the rest of it, I think it looks really, really good. Additionally as well, they have got the two ISO keys. They are doing a really good thing, and they're using two different keys. They're using two from the UK ISO thing, which some people disagree with. I think we could just put some different legends on those that match the kind of the rest of the STEM kind of theme. I think you'd be fine as well. So yeah, but either way, really, really interested to see how this does well, and I think it's going to be a must buy for me. Is this, because I just think it's great, and it's something that I want to support.
Nice. Yeah, so it does have a couple other kits as well. Has a Spacebars kit, pretty standard looking stuff there. It also has a Greek sub-legend kit, which is pretty cool as well. That looks pretty nice. I don't know how I feel about the font on the Greek stepped caps lock, but it's kind of fun anyways, I guess.
Yeah, I'd get rid of that if it was me.
Same.
But I do like this second alpha kit. I'm not sure how well it would do if you've got the base alphas as well. That's to be confirmed. But I do think it'd be really good. The interesting thing as well that you could do is, irrespective of which one you go for, you could do some really cool things with like the modifier keys here as well. Sorry, I know I'm going back to that. But for example, for like the Windows keys, you could do like a stack of notebooks or something like that to fit that kind of whole learning theme and stuff. So many things you could do with this to try and update it. It's so cool. It's really cool. It's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think it definitely looks good, and as long as the price is decent, I think I'll probably wind up picking this up as well, just because it seems kind of fun. kind of different to
Yeah.
me. And I appreciate that. All right. Good stuff there. So let's go ahead and move on to something that's actually it's just gone in group buy, if I'm not mistaken, right? This is GMK Redacted finally hitting the scene from Dixie Mech, of course, and this is the I guess you can't. It's not an April Fool's set, obviously, because there was an interest check on April Fool's for it, but it was technically teased months before that. So obviously, it's not actually a joke. It was never intended to be a joke, to my knowledge. So, but with that in mind, it made it to group buy. So finally, GMK Redacted is here, and if you can tell from not only the pictures and the renders, but the artwork and the thread itself, the theme is very obvious. It's meant to be kind of a redacted censoring sort of thing, kind of like a I don't know, what's the actual term to call this, like the U.S. government like censoring kind of thing.
Redaction.
Is that just what it's called? Okay, so yeah, kind of an interesting take on that. How do you feel about this? This is quite different from most other sets.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's cool. I think when we talked about this in Intro, I think it's really interesting for me because there's so many things you can do with it, and there's a couple of interesting things about this. So the redacted legends are effectively just pad printed. They've got like a pad printed layer over them. Well, in fact, actually, no, they've got two pad printed layers over them.
Yes.
So there is an image in there as well where Dixie tried having one pad printed, and you could kind of see the legend underneath, which was fun. But in the whole kind of conspiracy theory kind of thing and the whole top secret kind of stuff for this kind of like theme, it was nice to have them fully pad printed. And then the idea being that over time, if you really heavily use these sets, that might start to fade away and you'd start to see the legend underneath it, and that's kind of cool. It's kind of like something that will, the more you use it, the more benefit you might get from it.
Yeah,
so it's really interesting. The other thing as well it allows Dixie to do is to cover a lot of different layouts quite easily by just changing some of the legends by redacting them. So it means that he can get away with using fewer keycaps, so he can build and add more compatibility overall, because some of those keycaps could be used in multiple situations because the legend's not there, right? So that's kind of fun as well. I think it looks really interesting. I think it's going to potentially look a little bit jarring on some boards if you're not kind of used to it. To those not in the know and those kind of folks that don't use this on a regular GMK sets and things like that on a regular basis, it could look kind of funky and kind of weird. To those people that like it, I think this is already doing really well. Looking at some of the numbers, I think it's already sold like 250 base kits or something like that. So I think it's already well over MQ. Yeah. I think it'll do pretty well. I think it's interesting. It's probably not a must buy for me, but I probably will pick it up anyway, just because it's quite cool. The alpha colors, but I think it's 2M, right? I don't think this is a white as such. It's more of a grey.
Really?
I'm sure it was a 2M.
You're right. Yeah. 2M on the caps and 9 in the legends. CR.
Yeah. It's not. It's more of a grey than a white in my head. So it's worthwhile bearing that in mind, that when it's rendered on a white keyboard, it's probably not going to look like that. It is very much grey compared to the white, so just worthwhile bearing that in mind. Yeah.
Compatibility looks pretty good though, like you mentioned, because of the redactions. You can kind of limit the amount of keycaps you actually need, and you can kind of just get compatibility that way. So pretty smart base kit. I do like that. There's the classified kit. Also, shout out to Lunar Sama who mentioned it in chat. But classified was the word I was actually looking for earlier when we started talking about this. I just couldn't remember. But there's a classified kit here, which I guess is, I don't know, what would you call this? This is like a text novelty kit, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think it works. The top secret caps lock button is a must buy. I think that's awesome. It's a really good design choice. Redacted, classified, top secret, sealed. Yeah, all kind of good keywords. I like that. We're both suckers for text novelties, so that works really well.
Definitely.
And then you've got this kind of almost standard base kit now for, almost standardized spacebar kit now. It covers pretty much everything there, nothing too unusual. One of the clever things, and we talked about this earlier on, that the base kits kind of allows you to do multiple things because of the legends on them, is it's actually got some blank keycaps that still have the double pad printed printing on this. These won't wear away and show something underneath, but there is an additional kit called the Eyes Only kit, and this kit will allow you to configure it for pretty much any compatibility. So when I said that the base kit worked for a lot of international layouts, and the ISO keys were kind of redacted, so they worked for different variations. The keys that weren't were the row 1, 2, and 3 keys. That was very much the US ANSI one. But you could quite easily just swap those out for a couple of the row 1 keys in this kit, and then it does match. You don't know that it doesn't match because it's a redacted version. So absolutely, it adds some support for that kind of thing. Dixie's posted a picture of the 2M versus the other color, so you can see it is very much a grey.
Yeah, I'll open that up as well, just so people can see. There you go.
There you go. It's very much a grey. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very different on that. All right, cool. So the downside to those using these as like UK extension keys basically is if you do wear out the pad printing, then they're just blank, right? And the rest of your num row isn't. So that'd be. But I get it. I get it. Like that's what you should be doing, and that's probably what people are going to do here. But yeah.
Yeah. The other thing as well, though, is that GMK pad printing is actually kind of good.
It's pretty good.
It's impressively good.
It's pretty good.
I've got key sets that I've got pad printing on that I've used daily for over a year, and they show no signs of wearing through the pads. So pad printing on GMK is pretty solid stuff. So double the layer as well it's going to be pretty solid. I think this is going to be kind of interesting. It'd be a great conversation piece. It's
one of those things, right? Like it's more than just a GMK set. Like it could just be like a collector's item for you, or some kind of something like that. Like it does serve a lot of purpose. I feel like just being like a cool product as opposed to just like being a key set, for example.
Yeah, maybe this is something I'd buy and put on the Fat Boy, right? And
exactly. Because I mean, look at this. If you go through the thread, like, look, he put through like so much work in this that didn't really need to be here, and like it just shows that he's trying to conform a bit to the theme and trying to like maybe even get in character a little bit. Which is really cool because to me, like I appreciate that a lot because we see so many key sets these days. Like it's so hard to get invested with one or the other just because, you see 20, 30, 50 a week nowadays. Like it's almost pointless at this point. But when you actually have people that follow the theme and like they get really into it and you're constantly seeing like hints and teasers and this and that, I think it's really good marketing and really good advertising and it's really good for getting people hooked on the actual theme. So I'm glad he went to put the time into that. And also, let's talk a little about the Rama novelty because this is actually really cool on this set with the aluminum, the E-white with the infill or the enamel fill.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that is it's going to be E-white. The E-white probably isn't going to match too close to the 2M. That's what kind of worries me about it because 2M is not a white in my head. It's very much a grey. And it's one of the there was a board right at the very top. I think it was the 75% version of the Bauer. Again, it's kind of like 2M keycap set, but it's rendered on what most people assume is an E-white board. I think that it's not going to look as close to that in real life. So I do think it's worthwhile bearing that in mind. It is going to look a little bit different to that. You can look at the image that Dixie posted a few minutes ago. It does show that 2M is actually grey. It's not white at all. So it is worthwhile bearing that in mind.
I actually didn't take a look at the mats before this. I totally forgot. But it's like it's like they're mecha mats, but they've been redacted or whatever. That's pretty clever too. That's fun. Yeah, I like that. Probably pick up one of those. I wonder if the silicone swirl. I wonder how that white will match with the actual set.
It'll probably match better because you'll have bits where the black and the white do match the grey, so it'll kind of have the range of colours across that because it's a marbled kind of effect keycap. So I think it will match just fine. It'll look probably closer than the. I just think the Brahma cap might look really bright compared to the 2M. I don't know. I may be wrong, but yeah, that's just how it feels to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, it'll be good quality though, because Brahma caps are always great quality. So it's just more of a colour matching thing for me.
Yeah. So this is open right now, guys. Opened yesterday, and it's open until June 2nd. So if you want to get in on the GMK Redacted goodness, there you go. That's still going on. Maybe if that is not your thing, this next topic could be. This is the group buy for GMK Masterpiece. Obviously, this opened a week ago, but I think it opened during our show last week, so we didn't cover it. But, of course, we will be covering it now. So this, of course, was kind of the set that's inspired by kind of the traditional Japanese craftsmanship and attention to detail and just the kind of the masterpieces that they produce with their works. So
Yeah,
this is a really cool set that I feel like almost slipped under the radar a little bit. But
this should be huge. It
yeah,
should be huge.
I feel like this is going to be a pretty big set. Full disclaimer: I've already bought one of these. I bought one day one. I really like this set. So
I haven't yet, but I intend to. So.
It's pretty cool for a lot of reasons. So for starters, let me make sure I get the numbers right because I know he said it somewhere in here. Okay, here we go. This set has 85 new molds. For contrast, the recent GMK Lunar, which also had a lot of molds, only had 77 new molds.
Yeah.
So this has like more molds than like most other, if not any other GMK set. And it's also, at least according to this post, GMK's first key set with Katakana Legends. And that's kind of cool. I don't know if that means Katakana Mono Legends or if that means Katakana Sub Legends or just all overall. But
I think it means Mono Legends, I think.
Yeah, presumably if it means Mono Legends, that's cool as well, because that's what we have here. We have a Katakana Mono Legend set. And, man, I just love this. So I love everything about this. I really do. I love the blue. I love the legends. I love the accents. Base kit works totally well for me. I love that they're going out of their way to use so many new molds here, so we actually get the what I'm presuming is proper legends on the mods and such.
Yeah, I mean, this is look at the latest numbers from Devorkal that were on the thread on the 7th of May. Looking at this, it had done 250 MOQ already. 500, I think, was the MOQ. Sorry, so it hit 250 already from a base perspective. So that's doing pretty well for the first week. That shouldn't have any problems at all hitting MOQ. And most of the kits were well over halfway, if not already, to MOQ. So I think it will do just fine. I really like this set. I think it's a great blue. It's a lovely looking set. I don't always like sub-legends and things like that, but the way this base kit looks, I think it looks fantastic. Again, it gives you some real opportunities because you don't need to worry about different language support because it's only supporting one language. You don't have any challenge to the ISO keys being similar or not and things like that. I just think this works for so many people on so many different levels, and the white keycaps with blue legends look so classy in amongst the kind of the all blue set that it just works. It just works, and yeah, I'm not surprised that this is selling well. People are saying that it's someone said that it sold 500. It doesn't say that on the Devorkal numbers, but yeah, I can't not see this selling 500 units because it is really, really nice.
Yeah, this is super nice. I actually didn't even really recognize it before, but look at the F keys on the 19X render, for example. Like those are like. Those got to be new molds as well, right? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're all new molds. Yeah, they're all new molds.
That's so crazy to me. I love it. I love it. Just so much effort put into this, and I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I think some of the icon mods as well, so for like print screen and things like that, they're really cool. I don't have a bad thing to say about this. I genuinely can't find any fault with this set overall. I think it just works, and to keep with all of those new molds to keep the prices where they have, well done to the vendors, because I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking awesome. So of course base kit does offer quite a bit of compatibility. It's hard to know exactly if anything's missing for me because I don't know what a lot of these keys actually are based on the new Katakana Legends. So I don't have a whole lot of comments on this, but from what I can see, the compatibility looks pretty good.
Yeah,
as far as the base kit is concerned.
Yeah, I can't see anything.
Yeah, and this is.
It doesn't support GIS.
This is at least basic ISO support, though, if I'm not mistaken. And it looks like.
Well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need full ISO support.
Well,
I mean, it covers
true.
ISO, and it doesn't have the same legend twice because the ISO keys are all next to the ISO ends. So you've got the row 4 one underneath the ISO ends and the row 3 one next to it.
Yeah.
So the legends are completely different. The two keys that you circled a second ago, those are the homing keys, right? Those are the homing keys, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the barred homing keys. That's F and J effectively, or what would be F and J?
Yeah. So this,
I think it looks great.
Yeah, it looks great, and like I said, I already bought it, so I don't really have a whole lot of bad things to say about it. That's the base kit, of course. There are a couple other kits as well. This is the Clarity kit, which is effectively your icon mods kit, if that's more your style. And then there is the Preserving kit, which is your spacebar kit mostly, but also some basic 40s and ortho stuff. And then there is a Latin Alphas kit. If you're more of a fan of Latin Legends, then you can get that as well. Do note that if you get the Latin Legends kit, the West kit, with the base kit, you'll obviously still have the katakana mods. So if you're looking for and Ephro, yeah. So if you're looking for something a little bit more traditional, I guess you would have to buy not only the West kit but the Clarity kit as well. And even then, you'd still have the katakana Ephro, but that's just layout dependent at that point. But
it's interesting to note as well, the West kit does do the 2 ISO keys, and it makes them the same, which I think everyone agrees is just wrong. So at least do the row 4 one as a terminal one or something like that. Constantine's in chat as well saying that this is the first correct ISO in the base set. It's Japanese ISO in the base set, which is good to know. Yeah,
it's interesting that they actually do it right in the base kit, but they do it wrong in the Latin kit.
I mean, to be honest, I can kind of see why the Latin kit is not actually, the main kit for this set. It's probably going to sell very few compared to the main thing, but they just need to do something a little bit different with those 2 ISO keys. Just a shout out to any keyset developer. Just reach out to Constantine, Depleted Vespine, or myself, and ask one of us if you're going to put ISO in a kit. Don't be scared of it. Just do it. The only other thing that I wanted to say as well is I'm really glad that even on the Clarity kit, which has got the icon modifiers, that they've gone for the standard OG kind of molds for those as well. Big fan of the shift positions there and stuff like that. So yeah, good to see that too.
Cool. All right. Good stuff. So that is, of course, open now, and I believe it runs until June 2nd. And interestingly enough, this one also has, I don't know if it's over, but they were doing here it is, Kepler giveaway. So I think as long as you order a GMK Masterpiece base set, you are in for a giveaway for a Kepler, which is pretty intense. That's a pretty epic giveaway cool. For a key set as far as I'm concerned. So that's pretty fantastic. Obviously, the Kepler, if you're maybe brand new to the community, is a rather high-end board that came at a very high price tag because of how unique and high quality it was. So I believe it was like an $850 keyboard or something like that. It ran around the same time as the Keycult #2 when it first launched. So very, very, very nice keyboard. I have one. I love it. It's freaking awesome, and a lot of people have been enjoying theirs as well.
Yeah, it's just to point out on that as well. You bought one of these base kits, and you already have a Kepler.
And
so
I already have
on your second Kepler. If you win another one, I'm having that. Thank you very much. There we go. You heard it, folks. I've got dibs on that. If Brian wins the second one,
okay, if I win this Kepler, people would riot because people would say it was rigged. So I would probably just have him re-roll it. Honestly. I learned about the Kepler giveaway after I paid for the set. So I bought the set knowing because I wanted the set, and then I learned about the giveaway, and I was like, "Oh, what the heck?"
I was just making a meme. And likewise, I'm going to buy a set anyway. And even though I don't have a Kepler, if I did win it, I would as well re-raffle. Yeah. The one thing I did want to call out on this as well is there's desk mats as well, which all look really great. I'm a big fan of the kind of the arch design desk mat. That looks fantastic, and the black just square desk mat as well. But the one thing I did really want to talk about on this one before we move on, and we'll try and keep it quite quickly, is this knife-inspired Rama Masterpiece keycap. Because this is really interesting. So effectively, it's a cherry keycap, as most of Rama's keycaps are, but it's just got this front edge that's been beveled to look like a knife blade. And I think that looks really smart. I just think it looks really good, especially in the gold. I think that fits the theme really well. If there was one Rama cap that I was going to buy this month, it would be that one, even if I wasn't buying the set, just because it's something a little bit different. It's something new, and it just looks really good. I'm really, really a big fan of that.
Yeah, it's always kind of interesting whenever you see keycaps like this for sets where they not only have a design per se, which obviously there's a little bit less design here in a way, but they actually change the shape of the keycap. So obviously, like you were talking about here, the knife edge, that's kind of the defining characteristic of this, and it's not necessarily the first time we've seen that. Obviously, with the metal Yugo artisan being a different shape, I believe the GMK Moto artisan kind of had that little square cut out in the corner as well. I'm always really interested when they actually change the shape of the keycap for the design or along with the design versus just doing like an engraving or whatever like we normally see. So yeah, I agree with you on that. That's pretty awesome. Comes in a couple colors as well. There's also the Master Rama cap, but I think that's not quite as interesting as the other one. Yeah, the other one's way cooler. I prefer it in the black brass personally as well. But yeah, there you go, guys. So that's open for a little while longer, almost a month. So if you're liking that, have a crack at it. Maybe win yourself a Kepler while you're at it. That'd be pretty awesome. All right, let's go ahead and move over to. We're moving out of GMK for a second here, at least.
Ooh, for a second.
You get a quick reprieve, Jay. Then we'll move right back into GMK. Don't worry. This is the group buy for Cat Arctic. So obviously, this is, I guess, a second run of Arctic. The first run being in JTK. This is, of course, done by Mekanisk, and this is a fairly similar colorway. Basically, this is just the Cat version of the set versus the JTK, and I think this is just absolutely lovely. I didn't really
agree.
I like the Arctic colorway a lot. I didn't care for it too much. I thought the quality of JTK at that point was still not quite where I wanted it to be to actually buy a set, so I never did, but I always appreciated the colorway. But now that I know that I like Cat profile and it's fairly cost effective, now this has happened, and this makes me quite happy. So Cat profile, the Arctic colorway, I think the colorway is absolutely fantastic. I really like a lot of Mekanisk's sets, just kind of his design philosophy of keeping things a little bit cleaner, a little bit less in your face. Really, really appreciate that here. I think it's going to look absolutely fantastic on the Cat profile.
I completely agree. I completely agree. I like both alpha colors as well. Both the options for the alpha colors, I think it looks great. This is just really, really nice. The Frostbite alphas and the Arctic alphas look great. There's no way we can go through all of the kits for this because there's just tons and tons of kits, guys. But do take a look through. There's coverage for pretty much everything: French, North, Colvrat, you name it, it's in there. So many different modifier sets, we can't even go through them. But it is genuinely a lovely set. It's really nice. I think this is what you were alluding to earlier on, but this is what Arctic should have been in the first run. I think this is really, really nice. And I agree. Mekanisk is a nice guy. I like his sets a huge amount. I think this looks really good, and if you like Cat, I think it's definitely one to pick up. Big shout out on the blue kit as well. There's some really nice novelties in there. From penguins to little snow foxes to all sorts of other creatures, a snowman on the enters and things like that, and some really clever keycaps that talk about temperatures as well, so like 0 degrees C and 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 273 Kelvin and all of that kind of stuff. It's just really fun, and I like those as well. I think the novelties kit's really good.
Yeah, it's very, very, very nice. I think this is a super well designed set, and I don't think this is going to have trouble selling at all. I'm actually going to be joining this right after the show today, so this was my reminder. I'm looking forward to this. So pricing wise, it's pretty much in line with a lot of the previous Cat sets. You can put together a fairly decent base kit for under $100, about $95 to $99-ish. Or even less if you're using smaller layouts, which is always one of the cool things with Cat sets too. A lot of the 40% users, I feel like, benefit a lot from this because you can outfit a lot of boards for like $50 to $60.
Yeah, and all the French, the Azure users, the uncommon languages that we see in keyboards, that are widely spoken around the world. All those popular languages that just seem to lose out to the American English kind of layouts. Absolutely.
The compatibility just reigns supreme with the Cat sets, just because of the way they do MOQ, the way that we have the kitting set up. Yeah. It's just looking nice though. But I am hoping and wishing that Cat really does get the or it's not Cat, sorry, Creative rather, get the Cat profile assembly line down a little bit more pat. I want to see them start to push sets out at a slightly higher rate than they have been. I'm trying to be a little generous there.
Yeah, it's Milkshake shipped yet?
I think Milkshake has shipped to vendors, or it might have started shipping from vendors. I think it's starting to get in the wild though, which is really, really cool. That makes me very happy. But once they start getting that rolling, we start to see a couple more sets roll out. I think Cat is going to definitely ramp up a lot in popularity, and people are going to be a little bit more open-minded to it once we see that they can actually deliver. And I really hope they do, because this set is going to be one of my favorite sets in existence, I bet, if it winds up looking like the renders. So I'm very, very hopeful for this, and I'm so very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's worth well calling out as well that the MOQ has been met, which was 54,000 keys, and they're currently at somewhere around 86,000 keys as well now. And big shout outs to the one person that bought it, the Frosted Otter text pack as well, the mod pack there. Yeah, big shout outs to you. Big problem.
The one person, huh? Yeah. So, sometimes it just be like that, you know?
Hey, if you're the only owner of that kit, how cool is that? I own this kit, cool. And it's the only one. That's pretty cool, right?
You're not wrong, honestly. That is actually pretty cool. It's extra exclusivity. Shout out to Japanese horror writer. Great to see you, man, with the 1,000 RIP bits as usual. Appreciate that, my friend.
Tasty. Is it still playing the?
It is.
Playing it?
Yeah. I keep like. I'm like starting to get more used to it, but like I still kind of hear it like after not hearing it for a while. Like we'll be talking for a couple topics and then it'll pop up, and I get a little scared. I startle really easily apparently when it comes to top Clack. So
nice. But yeah, tasty bits. Gotta like the tasty bits.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. So, that is Cat Arctic. That is open now. That is open, I think, until the end of the month or a little bit longer. So get in on that, guys, if that's your thing. All right, let's go back to GMK territory, where I know all of us feel very, very safe. So this is the group buy for GMK Deep Navy by T. Tom here. And this one does run all month until June 1st there. And there's not a whole lot to really say about this. I mean, I feel like if you're a fan of the navy color, then this set could be for you. And if you're not, then you might really hate this set.
Yeah, I really like this because this is going to go on my personal grey JO2. Big fan of this. I think it's going to look great on that color. You know, the renders look really close to black for some people, depending on how you got your screens calibrated and stuff like that. But I'm sure it's going to be an actual navy. So I know it's going to look close to black, but I think this is going to be a really, really dark blue. I think it's going to work really, really well. It's absolutely something that's achievable. The base kit's pretty solid. It covers most layouts. You know, it's got that terminal style ISO. It's got 65%. It's got all of the good other stuff that you need: Sangan, numpad, everything else included in base. I think this is a really, really solid base kit. The additions kit works well as well. It's got some extra tab keys and things for 40s, as well as a B key and some more space bars. Again, really good. Rama cap as well, inclusive. And one of the best things about this is absolutely that desk mat that's available as well. That's really, really cool, showing that deep navy blue night sky profile with the trees underneath it. Maybe it doesn't necessarily refer back to the key set too much, but either way, it's a great looking desk mat, and I'm really, really excited for this. This is absolutely a must buy from me, not least because Tom's, you know, part of the EU community and got to support those things. But that base kit is going to look really, really good. Anything with like a dark space gray type silver kind of board is going to look fantastic with this color key set on it. Yeah, it's going to really, really be interesting, but I like it.
Yeah, nice. I actually wasn't really considering buying this, but after hearing you talk about it, I kind of want it now. It does look pretty good.
Did I sell it well? I mean, I'd get nothing from it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like we're promoting it. It's not like we get.
No.
It's not like we get anything from it.
It's nothing to do with me or prototypist or anything like that. This is literally something I really like. It's just something I like. So yeah, it's absolutely going to go on my personal JO2 when that arrives, because this looks really good. I think this is going to do really, really well. I know people keep saying to me as well when I've talked about this in Discord servers that it looks almost black, and why not just buy white on black and stuff. But I think it'll actually look really blue in person when it turns up. I think it's
Yeah,
going to be absolutely
lately I try not to comment too heavily on colors, just because, as most of you know, I am fairly colorblind. So my opinion on a lot of this, I feel like is less relevant. But to me, that is very clearly not black.
Yeah,
and it could just be the way my monitor is calibrated, or maybe like I can finally see something. I don't know, but yeah, to me this really does look like a very dark blue, and it really does look super lovely.
Yeah, and again, I think pretty much everything's hit MOQ. I think it was 250 MOQ. As of a couple of days ago, it was one base kit shy from hitting MOQ. So,
Nice.
you know, it's going to do just fine. Even the Editions kit was almost MOQ as well. Rammer caps are doing particular. Rammer caps have been selling exceptionally well recently.
I noticed that as well.
Like huge numbers, like genuinely huge numbers of Rammer caps. And it seems to have just recently hit in the past, like 2 weeks. I don't know if someone's done like some big article on Rama or something somewhere, and it's kind of prompted a load of sales. But like, and I know this is stepping aside from what we talked about, but like even for GMK Bleach, like the sales of Rama caps were okay, and then all of a sudden, the last week or so, the sales have skyrocketed for them. It's absolutely crazy. But hey, you know, people
yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just our community growing, and you know, Rama tends to do a really good job with a lot of the stuff that he does, and I think people are aware of that. So it's not terribly surprising, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the set looking pretty good, and again, it runs until the end of the month, until June 1st, actually. So still got a little while on that. And let's move over to what is our last topic of the day, actually, I believe is... Oh, did I not get the group, or the Geek Hack link for this? Is there not a Geek Hack link for this?
Oh, I don't know. There must be. Let me see if I can find it. I think I put this one on the news doc, so that might be my bad. Let me find it.
It's all good. It happens. It happens.
It happens. It happens.
For anyone curious, wondering what the heck I'm talking about, we try not to display most topics on their like vendor sites. We try to display the Geek Hack threads, or like a Keep Talk thread, or even like a Reddit thread, just because it remains more neutral. I know Novel Keys is a sponsor, but like, since while we're talking about this set, we're not trying to necessarily promote it until actually we talk about our sponsors. You know, primarily we try to keep that really separate, so it doesn't look too whack.
Yeah, the threads in chat. The Tensor got there like 2 seconds before me, but yeah, we both pasted the same link into the chat.
I'll just open that one then. I gotta go ahead and remove that real quick.
But this is GMK Classic Blue. I'll start to talk about this while Brian's just doing what he's doing. It's you know, it's a set that we've seen a lot. It's heavily inspired by you know, things that have come before it, vintage sets and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's Classic Blue. Everyone has pretty much seen this before. I don't think this is you know, new or unusual to anyone. The base kit is pretty solid. It covers pretty much everything, includes numpad, ISO support, Alice Bs, UK ISO to that effect as well. It's got support for all of your different layouts in terms of Sangan, HHKB, 7U bottom row if you want that. You name it, this base kit's got it. This is kind of like the epitome of all-inclusiveness from a base kit perspective.
Even the F13? Wow. Yeah.
F13?
Yeah. It's right there. It's next to the UK ISO number.
Yeah. I hadn't seen that before.
This is a pretty nice base kit, yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's not actually in the base kit render. That's why.
So
I was
weird.
looking at the render and you were looking at the KLE. Yeah, so the F13 isn't in the base kit.
Oh, interesting.
Render, but it is in the KLE. Interesting.
They make the same mistake with the second base kit as well.
Yeah, so not sure which is the right one, but there are some differences between the two. I'll let chat go away and have a look and see if there's any other differences. But that's the first one that we've noticed. But yeah, I was looking for it, I couldn't see it, and then I realized I looked over to where the stream is at the other side, and then I realized that you were looking at the KLE, and I was like, base kit image, the render. So that's the both base kits are pretty much the same, apart from the fact that one has white alphas with blue legends, and the other one has blue alphas with white legends. So it's more of a monochrome set. Yeah, addition to that, there is a spacebar set which covers both blue and white space bars, depending on what you want. Pretty standard, but it's looking pretty good. I think I'm more of a fan of the white Legend alphas rather than the blue ones. If I wanted a blue set, I'd just buy GMK Masterpiece because that's much better in my opinion.
Yeah.
All blue kind of way. But Classic Blue is a classic set, and I think that standard white Legend alpha set would be really nice.
This is another one of those sets where I feel like it's just either you like that style of blue or you don't, and that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot else to say about that, though. This is a group buy thread, though, and I think you really have to get the consistency down on these renders too, because this isn't interest check anymore. So we got to know if that comes with an F13 or not, and I think that needs to be in the thread. And
I'd be tempted to err on the side of caution and say that the render, which has fewer keys, is what you should expect to get until it's clarified, just so you're not disappointed and you're expecting something you don't get. But that's possibly how I would look at it.
Yeah, but other than that, it does look pretty nice. Pricing seems pretty competitive. Base kit looks really good. I agree with you on the second base kit, the more monochrome one. I think it looks fine, but I think Masterpiece just looks better. But obviously, it's a very different theme too, right? You have to be pretty committed to buy a set like Masterpiece versus something a little bit more traditional and classic like this. But I do think it works better as the more dual tone set.
It does, yeah.
So that's pretty good. That's open until pretty much the end of the month, the 29th here. So look forward to that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, guys, we're going to move over into our vendor section in just one moment and talk about our sponsors. While we're doing that, guys, if you've got any questions for us, if you tag us at TopClack in chat when we move into our Q&A section in just a couple of minutes, we'll be able to really easily see your questions that you've got for us. It can be about anything keyboard related or otherwise if you really want to. But do tag us and we'll be able to answer your questions. You can ask us whatever you might need to ask us to help fulfill your knowledge requirements for the day. And we'll do our best to give you some clear and concise answers on those questions. So get them into the chat at TopClack. But without much further ado, we're going to speak about our sponsors. So where do you want to start? Should we start with Novel Keys?
Yes, absolutely. So of course, as usual, the wonderful Novel Keys on deck today, as usual. So they have so many things going on right now. They really are doing a lot. So like we just talked about, they have the GMK Classic Blue group buy going on right now. And this is the time where I shill this, remember? This is what I talked about just a moment ago. So that's going on right now, guys. It is pretty well priced. And we like that quite a bit. They do still have the decent 65 group buy still going on as well. So this is that fairly inexpensive but still quite nice 65% keyboard that comes in about, I don't know, a bazillion colors. I know you can't see this on stream, but there's pretty much just a couple shy of a bazillion in there, I'm pretty sure. So you can still get in on that. And like we talked about earlier, Cat Arctic running now. This is definitely going to be potentially a set of the year for me, depending on when it ships. But I'm looking forward to this quite a bit. Reasonably priced, lots and lots and lots of kits, just as you'd expect from a Cat set as well. And, if you don't want any of that, and maybe you're just looking in the market for some switches or stabilizers or desk mats or, I don't know, olive plushies, he's probably got you covered. He has lots of things in stock. It's pretty much a one-stop shop these days. And if you're buying something in stock, make sure you use the promo code CLICKCLACK, one word, all lowercase. That'll get you 5% off anything you're ordering.
Absolutely, yeah. Jumping over to our second sponsor for today, it is Kono.store. And then just to call out, they do have a temporary fulfillment halt because they're moving warehouses at the moment. But if you order right now, because of the small delay you're going to experience, they will give you free domestic shipping if you're in the continental US. So do bear that in mind, guys. In terms of what they've got available at the minute, if you have missed out on any of the group buys they've done recently, such as GMK Hero, GMK Copper, Cat Oasis, anything else that's been happening, within the past few months, they do have those back up for pre-order, so you can get a set at slightly above group buy pricing, but that will ship at the same time as the group buy. So this is effectively pre-ordering now for something that's actually going to get made rather than joining the group buy. Additional to that, they've also got a ton of other stuff that you can take a look at, including some different switches. They've actually got the switches that will be used in the Keystone now available. Now, bear in mind that those will only be available for the Keystone analog mechanical keyboard, which you can take a look at as well. But it's interesting that they're now already started to look at selling switches independently too. So that's definitely really interesting. Failing that, you could take a look at the Hex Gears boards. They've got the Gemini, the X1, and all of those other great variants available as well. So if you know someone who's wanting to get into the hobby or needs a mechanical keyboard while working from home or anything like that, please do check out the Hex Gears range, because they're low profile, they're Wi-Fi, they're Bluetooth enabled, so they're wireless keyboards, so you can use them. Really, really great starter boards for anyone just getting into the community.
Yes, absolutely. And next up, we do have the wonderful KBDfans, who has a few things going on right now. They have a handful of things coming soon, so they are going to be restocking some of the KBD 6.7 Mark IIs. I know a lot of people have been super hyped for those. They sold so many units, there's so many people waiting for them. So those extras, I believe, are coming soon, as well as the 8X Mark IIs. A lot of people are waiting on those, as well as Enjoy PBT Kuroshiro with Gawk. Round 2 of that is also happening very, very soon, so depending on what you're looking for, those could be something you're very much in the market for. If you're looking to try a cat set, maybe, and you don't want to wait, and you just want to see if you like the profile, I believe this is the only cat set currently in stock pretty much anywhere at this point. So, maybe you don't like the Legends. I'm not a fan particularly, but at the end of the day, it is still a cat set. It is in stock, and the price isn't terribly bad either. So, yeah, that could be totally for you. Of course, they do have a B-stock market, too, which hasn't really been getting a whole lot of updates lately, but sometimes when they do update it, they do have some pretty awesome things in here. You just got to catch it at the right time. I know it has been pretty tame lately, but there have been times where there's some pretty fantastic stuff. And of course, if you're not in the market for any of that stuff, they have lots of things, whether you want, macro pads or num pads or 60% boards, PCBs, switches, cases, you name it. They have lots. So if you're new to the community, consider KBDfans as a route to save some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving over to our final sponsor today is Mekanisk. So Leandrin and his store. So they don't have much going on right now. We have just recently seen the closure of a couple of group buys. But if you do want to pick up a WT60D PCB, those are in stock right now, as well as some Mekanisk stickers and some dampening foams as well. Now, the other thing to call out as well is they do have some things coming soon, which, Brian, I know you're waiting for a certain thing called a tin.
Oh, I'm waiting for everything Mekanisk does ever, because I really like Mekanisk.
Yeah, so plenty of stuff coming. So do keep checking on the site, because there's lots and lots of really cool things that are going to be coming soon. Both of us are big fans of everything that Leandrin does, and I think we're both really excited for that board to come and just to try it out and see what's good about it, what's bad about it, what's indifferent about it, and how much we like it. So can't wait for that. So tinnedsoon.com, definitely take a look out for that, because we're really excited for it.
That's right. Yeah, they also still have the ultramarine colored stabilizers coming soon as well. So, oh man, I can't wait. I cannot wait to get those and get the tinned in the ultramarine colorway.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm really excited for that board. I'm just rambling at this point, guys. I'm sorry. We'll swap back over. But really, I am super excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And that's the end of our sponsor segment. So, guys, we're going to flip back over into our Q&A section now. So do keep asking those questions, guys. If you've got any questions for us, just tag us with @TopClack and we'll be able to answer those. Brian, you're going to have to run through the questions because chat scrolled that far that I can't go back and see the earlier questions. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. No problem. I think I am back at the right time. So Melodid is going to start us out today, asking, while neither of you are keycap designers, do you have any thoughts on what best practices would be for a keycap set that can't use RAL or Pantone colors? Interesting.
First thing I'd challenge the keycap designers. Well, Midnight Rainbow goes into group buy in June.
All right. Well, I'm not going to defend myself here, because I know, being, at least partially colorblind, I'm probably never going to be a keycap designer, and I try to make that very, very obvious, as I don't want to ever seem like I'm the leading authority on colors. So I try not to comment on stuff like that. But as far as not using RAL or Pantone, I wonder what is stopping you from using RAL or Pantone, or GMK stock colors for that matter as well.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing here is that it's not that you can't use Pantone. So RALs are easier to produce in plastics. GMK have a really easy time of reproducing those, and they're pretty accurate with those. They're pretty spot on almost 100% of the time. It's that easy for them to do. I know that not all colors are available in RAL, but Pantone is the selection in Pantone is so big that if you can't find it in Pantone, it probably doesn't exist, and you're probably looking for something that's not quite right. So there's almost always a Pantone variation. Now, it's not that you can't use Pantone with GMK; they can do the matching, and it can go really, really well. It just takes some time to get it right, and it means that you have to have multiple revisions of test caps and things like that. So it adds to the timescales, it adds to the costs. It absolutely can be done. It just means that you have to take some time with it. Now, any good vendor that you run with will be able to run you through that process. They'll be able to help you with it. They'll be able to get the sample caps from GMK. They'll forward them onto you, be able to check them against your Pantone charts and everything else, and you'll be able to approve it. But it's not something to take lightly. It does mean an extended kind of amount of work to try and get the matching right there. So it's absolutely doable. Other than that, I don't think I'd recommend any of the other color matching schemes that are out there. RAL and Pantone are the two kind of premium ones that we should be using for these. And I don't think there's anything else out there that's designed for plastics other than RAL, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I definitely look at those.
Yep. Fantastic answer. Kaz-san is asking your thoughts on the heavy metal keyboards.
You're right, Brian.
We we talked before the show on whether or not we were going to include that in the news doc, because I mean, it is certainly news. But we've already covered so many SKB interest checks and group buys at this point that, like, it seemed like there wasn't a whole lot changing. It was more just like, here's how we're going to proceed moving forward. So it didn't seem maybe as important to put on the news doc for today. But, I mean, I certainly don't want to discredit it in any ways. So I highly suggest that if you're interested in the SKB keyboards, you make sure to go check out the heavy metal keyboard thread. Or whatever they're calling it now.
Absolutely. Just before we carry on that question, a big shout out to April Keyboards, who is raiding with a party of 172. So welcome, folks. Thank you very much for joining the stream. We're just in our Q&A section at the moment, so if you've got any questions, do tag us with @TopClack, and we will do our best to answer. And thank you, Gasp, for the Tier 1 subscription as well. Now 7 months of subscription. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gas. That really means a lot. Appreciate that so much, and for the raid. That's very, very kind of you. Yeah, like Jay said, welcome to all of you new people. If you're new around here, this is kind of a multi-segmented keyboard show where we talk a lot about the recent interest checks, the group buys that are currently going. Sometimes we have a little discussion on some keyboard topics. Right now, we're towards the tail end of our stream today. We're doing a Q&A section of the stream that we always end with for these shows. So if you have questions, now's a great time to answer those. To ask them, rather, for us to answer them. Use the @TopClack tag. It helps us out a lot. And we'll be doing Q&A for probably a little while longer here. So just keep that in mind, guys. But I hope you do enjoy your stay, all of you.
Absolutely. So, Keston, just jumping back to your question on the heavy metal keyboards, it is basically the second round of the SKBs, as Brian's mentioned. I have one. It's fine as a keyboard. We didn't think we wanted to cover it again because we covered all of the other variations previously, and not much has changed massively, so we didn't want to cover it again. But absolutely, if you're interested in them, man, I think the design language of them is very industrial, and if you like that kind of thing, go for it. They're not terrible keyboards.
Yeah, it seems really cool, honestly. And the pricing was really competitive on them previously, the last 2 or 3 times that we covered them. So, wouldn't surprise me if they're good now. And it's kind of cool that he's trying to move towards more of what seems to be kind of an in-stock approach, or, more just making it more accessible overall. And I think that's really awesome because the price was good, the aesthetics are really cool, it's a very unique design, and apparently it's not terribly difficult to do, so... I think a lot of people benefit from it, so it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Depleted Vespine is asking, or saying rather, earlier, Jay mentioned neither the regular nor the mirrored numpad layouts to work for him on a left side numpad. Have either of you taken the time to think about the numpad layout and wondered what improvements should it be subjected to, either if keeping it on the right side or moving it to the left? I have done so and would like to compare notes. Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I just know that both of those kind of numpads are theoretically Southpaw numpad should work for me really well because I'm a right-handed user. I need to use my mouse. I use a lot of spreadsheets, so being able to use my mouse and do the numpad at the same time should theoretically be really good. Or to have one hand on the arrows, one hand on the numpad should be really useful for me. what I struggle with the numpad and the mirrored layout is that my left hand doesn't necessarily want to press the buttons and where they are. I also think having an FN key in the numpad somewhere would be really useful for me. So I think if I was going to do it, I'd probably have the 3 keycaps on the bottom row, with the furthest right one being an FN key that I could use with my thumb, and then I'd have the 0, 00 keys, and go from there. I'd have to redesign it and think it through. I haven't got into any great shakes. It just doesn't work for me as it exists today.
Yeah, fair enough. As far as how I've thought about it, I never really cared too much. I've never been very dependent on a numpad, like, ever in my life. I'm actually, like, I didn't really start even using PCs until, like, 2012, 2013, so I'm actually kind of late to the game, like, overall, so I don't know. I've never really needed numpads, so I just choose not to use them. I obviously do have the Southpaw full size, which I'm actually going to be building very, very soon. The switches are about to arrive. That build stream is coming very, very soon. Tomorrow I'm building the Austin V2 prototype, but nice. Southpaw full size coming very, very soon, guys. And then I can give more thoughts on my numpad. But it is interesting to think about, though, because I am left-handed, but I use the mouse with my right hand, so like I use it like more standard. But I feel like for me, even whether I'm left-handed or right-handed, I think left-handed numpad just is more efficient. Kind of like you were talking earlier, like if you're a right-handed user, you want your mouse on your right hand, right? Like then you want the data entry or whatever on your other hand. So I think that's probably more efficient than splitting the use of 2 things with 1 hand versus 2 hands on 2 things. If that makes sense.
Maybe. Big shout out to Functional. Thank you very much for the Twitch Prime subscription. 13 months now. It says, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining the stream. We really, really appreciate you being here.
That's right. Good evening. Good evening to all of you, of course. Ted Strong with a pretty lengthy question. He's asking, would you have had a different reaction to the Cannon Keys profile if the cloned colorway was better known? Say if it were GMK Olivia instead of JTK Cola, or another designer you are friends with rather than an older design. What do you think of supporting cloned colorways through viewership and recommendations? And do you feel that it is any way disrespectful to the designer? That's a pretty loaded question. So I'm assuming that you're referring to this that I showed off earlier, which is of course it's a very early prototype set of the potential PBT that is going to be used by Cannon Keys PBT. So as far as I'm aware, this is Cherry Profile. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. That's what I've been told. So I don't think it's a new profile, unless I'm thinking of something different. So we might be talking about different things here. But
new manufacturer for the profile perspective, that's all it is, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the idea, it doesn't matter that it was JTK Cola that was taken, I think, per se, because it was supposed to be a prototype set. It's not supposed to be like a mass manufactured thing, and I'm pretty positive Upas didn't ask for this. This is just the sample that he was receiving, and that's the sample that he sent out to other people to check out, like me, which is why I have it now. So from what I've been told, he's wanted my thoughts on the feel and the sound of the PBT and the like the actual quality of the dye sub overall. So the font is irrelevant. The colorway is irrelevant because those are not going to be the same. He's already told me. He's getting feedback on the caps because he wants to know if it's going to be worth it to put in the effort and the money for the new molds, because molds are not cheap. They're thousands of dollars. So obviously he wants to know if the potential for the actual PBT platform from this manufacturer is there before he puts the time and the effort and the money, the thousands of dollars, into actually making Legends, or new molds for the new Legends, rather. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. But so far, it's been pretty good. I think the feel and sound have been pretty awesome so far. I have some minor issues with it, which I will talk about later. I'm still pretty new to it, so I'm still kind of using it and experiencing it and just learning it overall. So I think after another few more days, I'll have more finite thoughts on it, on some of the pros and cons. I don't think it's perfect, but I'm also trying to keep a really open mind here, as I always try to do. But yeah, as far as like the font, like these Legends and stuff, like, and the colorway, like it doesn't actually matter, because none of those are going to be the same when they actually launch. So I don't know. As far as your question, I don't exactly know how to answer it. I guess if it was Olivia, if it was the GMK Olivia colorway, I'd be kind of confused, I guess. I'd be surprised. But, like, I don't know. This is just red and white. It's just the fact that it has a Coca-Cola spacebar. But I don't know. To me, that's nothing new in a lot of Chinese manufacturing, or whatever. So
yeah, and the question, the way you asked the Tensor was really loaded, and I appreciate you want us to be honest, and we'll try and be honest, but it felt it was asked in a little bit of an unfair manner. We we don't support people cloning colorways. We talked about it at length on stream before, and we kind of want people to be able to have their colorways and do whatever they want with them, and not have them cloned or reproduced in any way, shape, or form. So we absolutely don't want to go down that route.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that we don't support cloning, copying, stealing IPs or designs or whatever. That's something we're not really into, and I don't want to support it. But I know that Canon Keys isn't going to run a JTK Cola, PBT clone. That's just not going to happen. This is just a sample. This isn't supposed to be like a public thing,
Yeah,
so
like you ask the manufacturer for a sample, they're going to send you what they've got.
Exactly. Like it's not like he asked for this. He just asked for a sample. This is what they sent him. So I don't think like this has anything to do with much of anything really. But that's just how I see it. I'm not putting a lot of thought into that. I'm just trying to actually like extrapolate the information from the key set and kind of gather my thoughts so I can help out Upas and Canon Keys, because he sent it to me for feedback, and that was it. I wasn't supposed to like write a review on it or publicly like do a video or anything. He just wanted my personal thoughts. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So it feels very respectful with him. I like Upas a lot. He's always been great with me. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on with that to some other questions. Sorry for the rant, guys. I love Chuletas is asking what's coming that is new from Mekanisk. Quite a few things.
Tinned.
So the Tinned is the big one. So that was previously called the Fiel Pro. And then he has changed the design a couple times, couple iterations over the years, because it was originally teased in like 2017 or something like that. But the tin looking amazing. Obviously has the new Type X coming out very soon. Jay and I got to check out the protos of that not too long ago. We did build streams of that. I thought they went really well. I'm really a big fan of that case. Big shout out to Type X. I know the Clippa S is shipping now, I think, or very, very soon. So that's pretty cool. He also has the Ultramarine stabilizers coming out. And there's one or two other things I'm not going to announce yet because I don't know if they're supposed to be public. So I won't say any more on that. But he does have some things coming. Yeah, he's been working lately. He's been working.
There's some stuff coming. Yeah, keep an eye.
Yeah.
Okay, who's up next?
All right, next up we have Niv180 who's asking, would GMK 9009 look good on E-White? I would say so, yeah. The thing about key sets like 9009 or muted, I guess, classic retro, that kind of stuff, black on white, white on black, they tend to work on a lot of keyboards and a lot of colors just based on how neutral they are. 9009, you can throw that on almost anything really. You might have some confliction depending on like the color of your case and like if you're using the accents on 9009, for example, because obviously that's kind of that's pretty indicative of 9009 is those colored accents. So, but it's pretty neutral. It fits in a lot of things. Absolutely. Couple people were mentioning my hair. Yeah, I know I look like crap, guys. I'm sorry. I haven't seen a barber in like 3 months because of all this stuff, and I'm bad at trimming my own beard.
I'm in the same boat. My beard has never looked so full as it does right now because
it looks good though. Like you actually look good.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. Thanks. My hair's really long. It needs trimming on the sides. Like the top length's fine. I can manage with that. But I do need a bit of a tidy up and stuff. But yeah, barbers are shut, so hopefully soon. It's
just funny. Like people have just been randomly. I've been watching Twitch chat. And, like people have just been randomly commenting about our hairs, like throughout the entire episode.
I've had 2 people DM me and say beard looking damn fine. One guy said, and someone else commented on the beard as well. And it's like, thanks, guys, but it's not intentional. It's just a sign of the times. It's just one of those things.
Man. All right. Anyway, sorry guys. Back to the questions. Leakin is asking, did either of you guys get in on GMK Wild?
Yes.
I did not.
I did. I bought it through Island KB, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Niv also asking thoughts on the cast iron skillet. Are you talking about actual cast iron skillets like for culinary use? It's a
keyboard that was done for an April Fool's.
The
it was
TKC, what? Okay.
It makes a terrible keyboard. Let's be honest. It would be terrible.
Yeah. Chances are it would probably not make a very good keyboard, but I think, as an April Fool's joke, as a gimmick, as a novelty, it might be kind of cool just to do and see, but I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of potential in there, and let's be honest, it was an April Fool's joke to begin with, so I don't know. I wouldn't put too much thought into it. To me, it was just a silly joke for April Fools.
Yeah.
Yes. Small box of tissues forgets to tag us, but he does ask, what do you see as the biggest mistake when beginning this hobby? That's an interesting question.
Ooh, interesting.
The biggest mistake when entering this hobby.
I think the first thing that people tend to assume is that more expensive and more heavy keyboards are better, and that's not necessarily always the case. They see like all these high-priced materials and they assume that makes the keyboard better, and I think that's not necessarily right. So don't use price necessarily as a gauge for quality and what will be the right type of feel. You can have all the most perfect materials in the world, but you put them together, it might make a terrible keyboard. Whereas you could have some really cheap materials and it could make a really good keyboard. Look at the Sirius, it's made of POM and it works really well. It's a bargain of a board and it sounds and feels great. So I think my biggest thing that I see a lot of people when they join the hobby is they just assume that the $1,000 keyboard with $500 key set and plate materials that are made out of the most robust metals in the world are going to be the best, and they might actually prefer something completely different. So don't assume that price necessarily equates to a better typing experience. It might equate to better quality materials, but those materials might not suit your style of typing.
Yeah, and man, I don't know how to phrase this in a way that sounds better, but I think when you're new to the community, you need to find a particular outlet of the community that is just like super educational and jam-packed with information. I said I didn't want to sound biased because obviously I feel that, or at least I want to believe and wish that Top Clack would be a place like that where people can come and learn that information easily and get that really nice calming experience in the Discord or something. So I think finding people that are kind, caring, and knowledgeable, and just asking them questions. Like, you got to try to intake as much information as you can, and you got to make sure that you're trying to get like the right information, and then from there on you have to be able to make like all these decisions yourself, right? Like, you can't just have someone else make all your decisions for you, obviously. So I don't know. I know I'm trying to take this question a different approach, I suppose, because I don't really know like what the biggest mistake is. It's kind of ever changing, right, as our community grows, because nowadays the barrier of entry in our hobby is really intense. Like, if you just jump into this hobby right now, like, what do you do? Like, where do you go? There's like thousands of keyboards and like what seemingly millions of key sets, always something new on the horizon. Everyone's arguing about something that doesn't make sense to you. Like, you don't know where to go, or like, should you watch this streamer or that streamer? Like, what products are bad? People make fun of you because you have an OEM. Like, it's such a weird hobby, and I think getting into it is very daunting. Right? It's daunting these days. Like, back in 2014 or whatever, it's so much easier because you have so much less stuff and so many
Top man and tray man, and that was pretty much it, right?
Yeah, like, there wasn't a whole lot more going on. So like, it's so tough now because you don't know what you like until you try it, which is why usually we try to say, if you can and you're new, go to a meetup, because at a meetup you're going to be able to try combinations of things that you never would be able to try out otherwise, and you're going to be able to try out so many more products and keyboards and items overall, just because there's going to be so many more people there with products that you've never seen or heard of before, things that you might not be able to afford otherwise, different lubing styles. And then, of course, you're going to have all those people there that are knowledgeable, that are experienced, that are, have been building and tuning their keyboards, and they're going to be able to answer questions for you. So, I think instead of being like the biggest mistake when beginning the hobby, I think something that people should try to keep in mind is just trying to make sure you're getting the proper information and you're not just falling into, I'm not of course going to call any names or anything, but like, maybe you're not falling into a clique that's just like mostly just about memes and doesn't actually care about like the keyboards or the other people in the community, because I feel like there are quite a few of those these days now too. So it's scary because like, you never know where you're going to end up. You never know where you're supposed to be ending up. Like, what do you do to get there? It's rough entering this hobby these days, I think. And
It can be difficult. Yeah,
I don't
it
envy.
can be.
I don't envy all these new people, man. It's got to be so hard on people right now.
But the other side of that is there's so much for them to get excited about and learn about. And
That's true.
Again, it's a double-sided coin.
If you do put in the time and the effort, and maybe you do have the money to spare, you can come out of this hobby with a lot of really cool stuff and information and knowledge. So
yeah. And hopefully once COVID-19 backs down as well, the other big piece of advice that we've always had is try and get to a meetup in your local area. They happen worldwide nowadays. There's nearly every country has meetups, or every cluster of countries has meetups and stuff like that. So I know they're not happening at the minute, and that's really sad. And you should stay away from other people and, and socially distance yourself in line with the rules for your particular area of the world. But as that kind of starts to get relaxed and we start to move away from COVID-19 happenings, then meetups might start to happen again more and more often. And if you can go to them at that point, then you should absolutely try and get to them, because it's a great way of testing out a number of different boards, of talking to other people, finding out what you like, don't like, and seeing a lot of things without actually having to spend any money as well. So that's the other thing we'd recommend, but just not right now, sadly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Constantine with the next question here. We're gonna try to speed these up a little bit, because we are going quite a bit over time here, but we have quite a few questions left, so just keep.
Go on then. What's this question?
Constantine is asking. Sorry, wait. I have to go back and get it now. What are your guys' thoughts on CP, the stock GMK color? Criminally underused, in my opinion. Yeah, it's nice.
I wouldn't say it was underused. I mean, it was used on the biggest key set of the past 2 years, Olivia, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'd argue that's not underused, but
I mean, it's not used as often as some other whites recently, I guess. CP saw a lot of use, though, throughout our community, I feel like. It maybe just not as much lately. But I think it's a fine color. It's nice. It goes with a lot of things. And I tend to like the brighter whites personally, but CP has certainly been used quite a bit.
Yeah. The only thing it doesn't go with is E-white particularly well, because the whites are too different. It doesn't go particularly well with that. But anything else it works great with. So, and I don't think it's massively underused. I think we should see it in more sets, but the fact that it's in Olivia means it's not underutilized. I guess if you were looking at the number of different sets it's involved in, maybe that's a different metric. But maybe we should see more of it. Who knows? I don't dislike it.
Yeah, definitely. Aka, with our next question here, aka, is asking, is there a way to get into contact with Red Suns to get a second run of Red Samurai?
I think Drop. To do it.
Well,
yeah.
I assume that Drop might own that colorway now, or own the rights to run that set, I guess I should say. Just because of the way they currently have been rerunning it. They've been running compatibility kits just for their keyboards. Like every month or two they run Red Samurai now, it feels like. Just with those super reduced layouts, obviously. But as far as an actual enthusiast grade GMK run of Red Samurai, more like the previous run, I'm not sure when they're planning on doing another one. It certainly could happen, and I think they'd be silly to not do it.
I'm pretty sure it's happening at some point soon. I remember speaking to Yanbo about this last year, and he said that a full run was coming. So, and I imagine it'll be some point this year or next. I think it'll absolutely happen.
Yeah.
I've caught up on questions. I can see the next one. So Melodet says, in case you were curious, here is a render for the set I'm working on. The biggest trouble I'm having is the dark red. Okay, that's probably not one for on stream, but I'll take a look after the stream. I'll probably go to sleep straight after the stream, but when I get up tomorrow, I'll take a look, Melodet, and I will reach out to you. Or if you want to reach out to me and DM me and remind me, because I may forget. But I'll chat to you on that one off stream.
Fantastic. Another shout out once again to Functional for that sub, man. It says, good evening, gentlemen. Appreciate that, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, dude.
He's also hyped for the Austin prototype. Tomorrow, man. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific is what I'm aiming for. But, of course, I'll announce it in the Discord.
I'm just scrolling through here looking for the next question rather than trying to read all the comments. But the next one comes from Oren Josh, and he says, how would you describe the sound signature from a carbon fiber plate? Some people love it, some people loathe it. I have never used one. Is it Thock or Clack? I've heard it's pitchy. Others described it as brass sound signature, but less stiff. So carbon fiber is a really interesting material. Technically, if you look at some of the proper scientific scales like Young's modulus and everything else, it's pretty stiff stuff. But it actually has quite a bit of give to it. And what I mean by that is you can actually bend it significantly without it retaining the shape you've bent it to. It will spring back to its original form. Whereas if you put the same amount of pressure on brass or some other similar kind of level of Young's modulus, you'd bend it to that amount of pressure, and it would retain the shape you bent it to because you've taken it past that breaking point. Well, not breaking point, but that kind of bending point, that kind of retention of its shape. So in terms of its sound and feel, it is relatively a firm typing feel, but it lends itself really well to sound, because what it does is it stops any ping being transferred to the case. So metals are inherently quite pingy, and if you flick a metal, piece of metal, you'll hear it ping and resonate, and that's just one of the way, because of how the atoms are stacked inside it, that's how sound propagates through the material. Carbon fiber doesn't do that, especially because carbon fiber plates are layered carbon fiber, and they have a weave across them, so the weave goes alternating different ways across the different layers. And that kind of reduces all of that kind of ping that you would get. So it sounds very much like, so in that case, it's very much like a plastic plate. It doesn't transfer any resonance as sound into the case material. What it does do is it really highlights quite well the sound of the switches and the keycaps that you're using, and you get much more of a truer sound from that perspective. It'll only sound pitchy if you've got different variations in case material underneath the plate itself. So if you've got different levels of case and all of that, it will only sound pitchy if you've got that. Personally, I really like the material, and I think it works really well in gasket-mounted boards. I really like to use it in boards like my JO1, JO2. I really like to use it on other boards such as the IM165. I use it in my Jane as well, pretty much exclusively, because I really like the way it works well with a gasket mount.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think carbon fiber is a fantastic plate material. As far as your question on whether it's Thock or Clack, I feel like terms like that are really hard to quantify in our community sometimes, so it's hard to, like, say one way or the other. If I had a gun to my head, I'd have to pick Thock, but I feel like describing it as that way isn't necessarily fair either.
I would agree. I think it depends on the switches, because it gives you much more of a clearer sound profile on the switches. Decide whether your switches are clacky or thocky to you, and it's just going to make that be a much richer sound.
And obviously this conversation is slightly moot as well, just because the plate is only one thing that is going to alter your sound signature. It's one of, a dozen or more things that's going to alter your sound signature overall. So, the sound, I'd like to see a community movement more onto the sound of, like, what a board sounds like versus what a material sounds like. That way you actually know what to expect when you type on something like the Sirius, which is obviously a kind of a uniquer board, being all palm. You won't get the same experience from a palm plate on one board that you will on another board, or a carbon fiber plate on one board that you will with another, or with these switches, or with these caps. Like, it's hard to quantify exactly, like, what something is supposed to sound like just because it's a certain material, because there are so many other variables within the rest of the keyboard build that are going to affect your sound just as much, if not more.
Yeah, how much lube you put in the switches, the thickness of your desk mat, the material your desk's made from, what size room you're in. If you're in a warehouse.
Yeah, the acoustics of your room, the material and thickness of your caps, the plastic compositions of your switch,
style.
Your lube type and style and viscosity, like there's too much. And, like, some people use, like, 11 desk mats and stuff. Like, you just don't know. Like, you won't know what a keyboard actually sounds like until you hear it in person. Sound tests are just silly. Are they fun? Yes. ASMR, sure. But as an actual accurate representation, GTFO, please.
Yeah, the other thing as well is, if you take a keyboard from, say, my office here, and it's what it sounds like here in front of me here, it's probably going to sound different in your room, because you'll have a different desk with a different sized room with different materials and things. It's like if you've ever done decorating, as soon as you take the curtains and the flooring up out of a room, it sounds really hollow and echoey, no matter how big the room is. It's kind of the same thing. So there's so many different things that go into the sound of a keyboard, but it's well worth thinking about in kind of a different way, as Brian said. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Orange Josh also says, stay with Top Clack building stream. I don't know what that's in reference to, but yes, watch the build stream tomorrow.
Yeah, and on Sunday.
Thanks for the shill. Crazy Boy 1179 is asking, do you guys think that companies/designers should do reruns of previous well-liked products, or do you think they should stick to introducing new things into the community? That's an easy question. I think there has to be a balance.
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on the product. It depends on how well it's done in the community. The designer reserves the rights to never have to run it again if they don't want to. If they think that product's done in their head and it's finished, they don't have to rerun it. It doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of more up to the designer? I don't know. I mean, that's like always a philosophical question, like a morality, like who has like who matters more in this situation, like the people wanting the set or the designer's desire to run the set again. I think at the end of the day, the designers and the companies are going to pretty much do whatever they want, and I think that's probably fine. I don't think we really need to address it in our community. I think it works pretty well. A lot of the times on the popular stuff, we do get reruns, and it does often happen at pretty opportune times, to be honest with you. So I think our community handles it fairly well. So I don't really think anything needs to change there, personally.
Cool. Niv180 with another question. He says, have you guys seen the new Animal Crossing themed boards by Clavier? No, I haven't, but I've seen the key set that's coming as well. I think it was by Abeck. I'm really excited
Islander.
for that.
Yeah,
I've got my switches behind me because the curtain's blown because the window's open. But I've got my Animal Crossing Switch. Really like it, like the colours. So I'll have a look out for them. I tend not to be a fan of the stacked acrylic type boards personally, but that Clavier is famous for. In fact, I don't think I've ever used a Clavier board. But
I haven't either.
I'm sure.
I haven't either. But I don't mind the products he makes. I think a lot of them do look pretty nice, and I like following his Instagram because he takes nice pictures as well. I haven't actually seen any of his Animal Crossing themed builds yet, but I'll be sure to check those out because I like to try to keep up with his products. He's kind of an interesting guy.
Sure. Yeah. Big shout out to Rage and Asian as well, Ray. Thank you very much for the 25-month sub streak. He says PogU. I assume that's a reference I don't understand, Brian, but thank you very much, Ray. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Indeed it is, Jay. Indeed it is. All right. Anyways, next question here comes from I don't even know how to say this. Docto owned. Oh, okay. I think it's Docto owned. Okay. For a first build, is there a repository of teaching content that you could recommend, particularly for soldering? As many streams as I've watched, I'm sure there are particular techniques or strategies I'm missing. Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of soldering content on YouTube. There's a lot of keyboard stuff, obviously, but there's also a lot of other soldering content on YouTube. That's how I learned how to solder. I started watching content from someone else that was kind of doing like an educational soldering video on YouTube that had nothing to do with keyboards. But that's how I learned to solder. But I mean, I feel like there's a lot of build streamers these days that you could probably just like ask to explain what they're doing when they're doing it. And like if I'm doing a build stream tomorrow, if you ask me what I'm doing tomorrow, like during the stream or why I'm doing it, I will always try to give you an honest and simple answer. So I mean, you can. I try to be pretty. I'm definitely not the best build streamer around these days, but I try to make my content pretty educational and pretty casual and pretty approachable. Overall, so come check out the stream tomorrow, and if you want some tips on soldering, I'll do what I can. I wouldn't say I'm a pro solderer, but I think I'm very comfortable and competent at it. So I'll try to answer whatever questions you can. But in the same vein, I think a lot of other build streamers probably feel the same. Like if you're watching, like Apiary, for example, build a custom keyboard, like, and you ask her, what's her technique on soldering or lubing switches or stabilizers or whatever, like she'll happily answer. And I feel like most keyboard streamers these days are kind of in the same vein. Like most of them are pretty happy and wholesome and helpful, and that's a great thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. During my build streams, and I'll be doing one on Sunday as well, I try and do like a Q&A during while I'm soldering as well. So that's often questions about all sorts of random stuff. But if someone asks me something specific about soldering, I'll do it right up against the camera so you can see exactly how I'm holding the soldering iron. I'll show you how I'll zoom the camera right in so you can see how I'm applying the solder. If you ask, we'll do it. It's that easy.
Yep, pretty simple. As far as like a really good dedicated like repository for that stuff, I don't think there is one yet. I know there are numerous people in the community that have been or are still working on, wiki or wiki-esque stuff. But I feel like very few things have... Yeah, Keyboard University is one of the newer ones for sure, and I think that they're doing a lot of things right as well. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I would say check out things like Keyboard University. I know there's a couple other things coming as well, but the names are slipping me. But yeah, it's tough because a lot of us want to think that this community is like has been around forever and like we're just we've been around forever, but like we haven't. Like this is so new. Like the community as we know it hasn't really been this way like for very long. So I think a lot of us are still figuring things out as a community, and like we're kind of just headed there. But I do think that we are still more or less kind of at like a ground zero kind of situation. Anyways, all right. Just a couple more questions, guys, before we head
I've
out
lost
for the
chat again. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you're gonna have to put
I just I caught up in chat. We're like fully caught up, but there have been a few questions like at the very end. So
cool. Go on then.
yeah, Udler is asking, what are your opinions on scooped versus barred homing keys, and do you think maybe new sets should omit one and make kits cheaper?
It's 2 keys. It's not going to make it massively cheaper. It isn't going to.
2 keys is going to be very minor on a
It's going
monument
to make 50 cents difference.
on a monetary scale. That's very, very small. So I think it'd probably be best just to keep the option.
If I was going to pick, I tend to prefer scoops, which I know is probably against convention, but I prefer scoops.
Oh, really? I thought those were more popular. I used to like scoops more, but now these days I prefer bars, but I gotta admit, ever since I've been using GMK 8008, I'm all about the nipple.
Yeah, to be honest,
good.
I like the nipple
They're
on the Apple M3501 sets that I use on the Borsdorf. They have nipple homing as well. That's really good. Although weirdly, it's not on F and J. It's on D and K.
Well, you know, hashtag Apple things or whatever.
Yeah, just Apple things, right?
It's just Apple.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nagid is asking, J01 round 2 ever gonna happen? I really want it to.
So yes, it is going to happen. A revision 2 is what I would call it, rather than round 2. The board's going through a redesign at the moment to try and make it a little bit easier to build, and hopefully prototype at some point this month and group by next month, maybe. Don't know, but it's going to happen. If you want to keep up to date on that, then either ask me on build streams rather than on the main show, or join my Discord, because that's where all updates will be pointed. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Crazy Boy asking, what do you think the biggest problem is with the mechanical keyboard community? Wow, that's another pretty loaded question.
People search for drama, and we don't need it. Drama's going to happen naturally. It just is with a community like this. That's fine, but we shouldn't be seeking it out or trying to force drama where it doesn't exist. And that's one of the big problems that I see.
Yeah, I feel like the hobby has... I really have been thinking this lately, too. I feel like a lot of people in the hobby have kind of moved over from talking about, like, what is cool and what they like to talking more about what is wrong and, like, what people are doing wrong and why these color combos are wrong, or this color is bad, or that color's trash, or LOL, you know, weeb sets are shit, LOL. Like, I feel like there's a lot... fewer people in the hobby that are actually like putting forth the effort to like be like wholesome and helpful like towards other people, and I've been seeing this a lot too, like a lot of new designers are just like getting chased off because maybe they didn't make something that the community thinks is super amazing or whatever, or like maybe it's too close to something else, but like they didn't know. Because let's be honest, if you're designing a GMK set, for example, right now, do you really know off the top of your head like every colorway that's ever happened in the key set ever? And like, could you think about that, like knowing that like you would design a set and like what if it was one or two of the colors was too close to the one or two colors from another key set? Like you gotta give people some like leeway just to be like, okay, maybe you didn't know. Like, let's just be honest, because I see people jump on others so fast for just being like, LOL, that's shit, or like that just looks like this. You're stealing a colorway or whatever. But it's like they might not have known. Like,
Heine says he knows every GMK colorway ever. So
okay, well,
just go PM Heine and say it's been done before, because then I can tell you. So Heine's the god of GMK colorways.
Well, Heine's just the god in general. But like, obviously, we do have resources where you can go look at. We have like the spreadsheets now or whatever, where you can go look at a lot of the GMK sets that have already ran and stuff. Like, you can do that. But like, how many people sit down before they design a key set colorway and go look through every single key set colorway that's ever happened ever and been like, okay, I'm avoiding literally all of those? Because I don't think anyone actually does that. And I think it's people should just be more open-minded, I think, in the hobby, and it needs to be less about what's wrong and what's bad and what we shouldn't do, and maybe a little bit more on what's good, what's like helpful, what's like wholesome, like what is actually moving our community forward, and like, are these people getting the help that they honestly probably deserve? This hobby is hard. It's a minefield, like Jay mentioned earlier, and like people.
It's a massive minefield.
If people don't get help when they get to this community these days, I think they just often sink, because like you don't know where to turn or what to do because there's so much always going on every single day in this hobby now. It's growing at such a rate that it's really daunting. And I feel like if you don't have like an actual like part of the community that's helping you, you struggle a lot more. And it would be nice just to see people open their minds a little bit more and maybe just try to be a little bit more helpful and a little bit more like, or a little bit less memey maybe.
I think that's fine. I think it's quite often for people who've been in the community for a long time, and I know Heine was joking a minute ago, but like people that've been around, like ourselves and Heine and the other streamers and everything else, and people who've just been in the community for a long time, like all of the big names that people know, we've kind of seen a lot of key sets, and we kind of probably will recognize that some look like others. Like the one we talked about, Azure, looks a little bit like Bento, we talked about earlier on today, and Soft Scoop, the earliest revision of Soft Scoop did as well, and all of that kind of stuff, but I think what we need to do is, rather than jumping on and pointing fingers and say, "Oh, that looks like this," and you can't do that because it looks like that, we should just say, "I'm not sure if you know, but this key set has already run in a kind of similar way, and this is the interest check." You can have that conversation in two very different ways.
Yeah, there are ways to word things.
If you have it in one way, it's going to put people off, and you have it in another way, it's going to help them and progress them. So it's all about how you want to,
Yeah, I think so many people just say whatever they want to whoever they want, like knowing there's probably not going to be any repercussion or like with zero like care for anyone else's well-being or mindset. Like people just say whatever they want. And sure, like voicing your opinions is obviously like not a bad thing, but there's a time and a place to say things like in certain ways, and I feel like some people are really aggressive and maybe a little bit too negative on a lot of the new designers or on a product they might not like. Like, just because you don't like a color or a combination of colors doesn't make the set bad or that it's wrong for literally everyone ever. That's not how colors work. Like, it's funny because it's actually extra funny because so last week on Behind the Keyboard I had the episode with Tiny. It was a fantastic episode. I love Tiny. She's great. We had a really good episode, and then after we ended the episode, her and I just sat there and talked for like an hour and a half about this conversation that we're having right now, basically. And it was really eye-opening that like other people shared like my opinion on all of this, because I always thought I was in like the minority here and everyone just wanted to be like a meme, but like she was like, it's like no, other people aren't understanding it either. Like, why are people so mean in this community when it didn't used to be like this?
Yeah, and you can have those conversations. Like, so one of the weirdest ones I've seen quite recently was someone, I think this was in the KBDfans Discord, but I might be wrong. It might have been some of the kind of like big vendor Discord. But someone was saying someone had posted a set that they designed, and I can't remember what the colors were, but it was fine. And so you can't run that because it's got exactly the same kit makeup as another set. And it's like they'd assumed that the actual keys that you put in a kit would be part of what should be protected, and that seems really bizarre that people are having those kind of thoughts and getting really, really far into it. And that's certainly not something we should be promoting. Loads of sets have had exactly the same keys as other sets, so it's really, really difficult. Heine makes a good point as well. He says that some sets are going to look like each other's and they come out
absolutely
very similar, and that should be fine. And unless it's the exact same colors, then I think it doesn't have to be the exact same colors. It can be really close and really step over a boundary.
It just
look at all the
it's fine. It's fine to say stuff like that. It just doesn't always need to devolve into an argument and drama and hateful like name calling and stuff. Like, the fact that happens so often in conversations and in threads these days is like asinine to me, and it just blows my mind. And I really wish that people would just be nice. Like, if more people were just like nice in this community, it would be an insanely amazing place. Like, way better than it is now.
Do you know what? It is possible, and this might be hard to believe, but it is possible that you can disagree with someone and still be friendly with them. You can still be friends with people you don't agree with.
I know we make that joke a lot, but it's so true. Like, it's comical that like people, maybe even if they believe that, but they still like argue against it almost instinctively, and it's so strange to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've been rambling about that for way too long. We're gonna
Was there
answer.
any other questions?
Yeah. I think there have been.
So far, I can't see any more.
I see one more that we were tagged in, so we're gonna answer that one. Then we're gonna take off for the night. So cool. Foy Sauce here is asking: are TX springs worth it? Are there other options for our aftermarket springs? Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. So most stock springs are not great, I'll be honest with you, but TX springs are probably a step above. There's some other springs that I would kind of put in the same sort of vein. So you've probably got, novelty springs as well in there and things. TX springs are pretty good. I'd say the best springs on the aftermarket are Sprit springs, but lots of people have problems dealing with Sprit after the way he handled things in the community a few years ago. So it really is a pay your money, take the choice, the best product out there versus some of the other ones. But TX springs are absolutely useful and ideal. Thick lock springs as well are good up there. You can definitely take a look at those, and the novel keys ones as well are pretty good. So yeah, there's other options out there. It all depends on who you want to do business with and who you're comfortable giving your money to.
Yeah. Thankfully these days there's quite a few good options too, like you mentioned there. Like novel key springs, honestly, pretty darn good, and they have really unique weightings that you don't really see very often otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thick lock springs, I've been enjoying those a lot lately, to be honest with you. All right. Well, that is actually going to catch us up on the questions, guys. So, with all those rants in mind, we'd like to thank you for watching today's episode. I know it was long. We went over the 3-hour mark a little bit, I think, but that was just going to happen. But hopefully there was enough information going on this stream as well. We try to make it educational as well. So. Yeah, guys, make sure you check below the stream. You can find the links to our official Discord. You can come hang out and talk about, I don't know, what have we been talking about lately? Whiskey or salsa or video games. Maybe you're playing Valorant. Maybe you want to talk about keyboards. There's something there for everyone. So make sure you join that. Yeah. Come hang out with us there. We try to be wholesome as well. It's a really fun place to just chill. And as far as upcoming streams, of course, tomorrow, which is, of course, Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to be doing an Austin V2 prototype build stream. It's going to be pretty awesome. I don't know the exact configuration I'm getting yet, but it's going to be pretty fantastic, hopefully. And it's going to be pretty fun. So come hang out and ask questions, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun. What about you, Jay?
Sunday I'll be doing another build stream. No Lego this week. The Batmobile was finally finished last week, so it will just be a build stream. I haven't decided which board I'm going to build yet. I've got 4 or 5 here. I'm tempted to kind of build the Volcano, but at the same time I'm waiting for another PCB and plate, so I don't know yet. It could be that. It could be the Anzi rebuild that I've been planning to do for a long time. I don't know. Depends on how I feel close to the time and which switches I leave on Sunday morning before the stream. But yeah, that'll happen at noon PT on Sunday, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time and 8 p.m. UK time. So yeah, come and check that out.
Nice. Fantastic. All right, guys. So make sure to tune into those streams. And until next... Oh, we should raid someone, huh? I feel like we always miss the opportunity to raid people.
We should. Merlin's streaming, I think.
Merlin's streaming?
Yeah, I think
someone in chat said raid Merlin, so I appreciate that. Sometimes I just forget to raid people. Merlin's streaming. He's playing a video game though. He's not doing keyboard stuff. Should we still raid him? I don't see any other.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's all right. Yeah, we should. Yeah. He's the only one that's streaming now that's keyboard related.
Okay. It's funny because I was actually watching him stream this game the other day, and watching Merlin stream a video game is actually surprisingly comical. Nice. Shout out to Merlin, because Merlin's a super awesome guy, but watching him play video games is very funny. So we're gonna raid Merlin. So that's where we're going, guys.
So say good luck at video games from Top
Luck,
guys.
Yeah. Let's go raid him, be wholesome, and you don't have to hang around if you don't want to watch him play games, but if you do, let's just say something wholesome. We'll go over there. I'm gonna start this raid now. So thanks to all of you guys that watched today. Make sure to check out our upcoming streams and stay on board with us as we go harass Merlin positively, wholesomely. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.